Hello. Goodness gracious me. Apologies to anybody that's there, folks. I'm so sorry. We're coming on a bit late tonight. We just could not get onto the internet at all. I'm just checking to see if we've got volume. So if anybody's there, many apologies. We were supposed to come on for 9 o'clock. And I've been having to do a hard restart on the machine and muck around and stuff, but we just totally lost our internet, I'm afraid, folks. Excuse me when I close this door. Oh dear. Right. Anyway, we're in business, I suppose. There's Telios to us saying, howdy, Doc. Hi, Paps. Very sorry about that. Dear, oh dear, what a mess. That hasn't happened in a while. But I come in, as always, come in a few minutes earlier just to make sure everything's okay. And it really wasn't. And I just could not get access to the internet here. It's I don't know really what was the problem. I ended up having to roll back some drivers there. But I've had a shutdown and we're back. So sorry about that for anybody who's trying to tune in. I'm wondering where we were. We haven't run away. And there's Bojack Harkness saying, hey all. And there's Miles Tag 87 saying, hi Doc, great to see you again. It's great to see you all again, folks. Thank you, Miles. Very sorry about that. I hope that we'll maybe catch a few people who are trying to check in with us. And normally I do a wee bit of banter, as I said, we start a bit early. So maybe I should just check things a bit earlier in future. But we're 10 minutes late, so I do apologise. And thank you all very much for joining me. I hope life is treating you all quite well. And that everything's not too bad wherever you guys are at the minute. I was having a wee think just before we go on. I said, if anybody is there, say hello. I was thinking the other week we looked at Appendix 1, this little mini adventure with Liet Kynes and his treatment of the Fremen as tools. And then what I sort of sat and did, just to give you a wee idea, is I kind of considered all the different groups in the Imperium and do they use anybody as a tool in that sense. So I'm pretty much the ecologist, planetologist using the Fremen as a tool. Tool for what? Tool for change. The Bene Gesserit use men as a tool for breeding and control. Bene Tleilax use women and face dancers as tools. Excuse me. Again, I suppose the Imperium, I suppose, uses the Sardaukar and the Fremen as a tool, ultimately under the Imperium of Paul Muad'Dib. The Guild uses, I suppose, its navigators for space travel. The Ixians, I've put their tool as no tech and no genes. Mimesis. The Fremen also seem to use the planetologists and messiahs as tools for their own agenda. It's all sorts of people using, and it's just a very loose sort of thought about it, to be honest with you. But I think there's all sorts of groups that use each other within the Imperium. I think we were chatting about how much the Fremen were susceptible to excuse me, superstition, etc. And that really, I suppose, is the topic of not just superstition, but the topic of Appendix 2 and the various influences upon Fremen religion, if you like. It's entitled, of course, The Religion of Dune. This is the first chapter, if we want to call it that, that has no epigraph. There's Cynthia saying, hello, Doc, and hello all. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks very much for joining us. We're running a bit late, and sorry about that. I said we had a bit of bother getting on tonight, and fingers crossed everything's going to go okay. I've had a wee bit of a thought just before we pile into this, by the way, and I've made I've almost created an appendix to this appendix myself here, in terms of some of the religious ideas. But the next chapter will be our 51st chapter, if you like, within this. It's really going to be chapter 51, 52 in the terminology, but I'm going to wrap up the book club next week with appendices 3 and 4 and the terminology of the Imperium. I'm just going to basically clump them together because they're not very long. I've got about 5 pages really to make some notes on. And I'm not going to sit and go through every single word in the terminology. I certainly thought, just for fun, we'd cover the first and last, but I thought we could kind of throw that open to anybody who wants to look up a particular word, because I know we've covered quite a few of them as we've gone through the book club. And I'm sure there's the odd little gem or hidden thing there. So I'll just sort of, I suppose we can all have a wee nosy through the terminology if we like for the next time. Excuse me. Real frog in my throat. So next chapter, next week, will be chapter 51, if you like, Appendix 3, 4, and Terminology of the Imperium. I've called it Terminus Est. It's going to be the end, so we'll maybe consider it a wee bit of a, whenever we wrap it up, a bit of a celebration or something, if you like. But we'll have reached the end next week, folks. So there you go. It's taken a bit of time, much effort, much input from all of you guys. Always, as always, thank you very much. It's been great. It really has been quite impressive, to be honest with you. I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll stop coughing and wheezing here in a wee second. Bojack Harkness is saying great time. Thank you, Bojack. I've enjoyed it. I was down in Tesco's the other day just before we get going, and had a little glimmer of hope in me that I always used to comment about second-hand books, and particularly finding Dune in second-hand bookshops, and they have these wee book things in Tesco's at the moment. Excuse me, that's not helping, is it? And happened to see a copy of Dune Messiah there. Bear with me a wee second, and it happens to be, I didn't buy it because I've already got one, but I've got about 3 different copies, and I don't know whether I'm inclined to ruin a couple of them or not. In fact, I have ruined a copy of Dune Messiah. As much as I have highlighted this one, goodness gracious, 50p in a second-hand bookshop. I kind of regret it, and I'm not really going to do anything more to that book. But having seen the new prints, etc., I'm not too impressed. And saying that, the text isn't massive in this one, but I'm going to run with this one here, I think, because it's in reasonably good nick. And also that it has no notes by me already on it, so I can look at it fresh. But yes, we're definitely going to have a go at Dune Messiah. This copy I have, coming in about 222 pages, with a proper epilogue, of course. So we've got that to look forward to, folks, as well. Once we finish this next week, I'm basically going to do my best to take stock of the channel. We've got some things to sort out with advertising that YouTube has taken control of. So I'm going to try and set all my adverts to medium, is what it's offering. You know, it's kind of how much interference do you want in your programs, and is it a low, medium, or high? So I'm going to set everything to medium, to balanced experience, if you like. And we're trying to get a wee thing set up on Patreon at the minute that I keep kind of not finishing. And we're considering kind of getting some audio stuff up on Spotify. So I'm going to maybe take a week to try and get some things built up properly, and possibly to learn some skills. And then I'm looking to sort of start getting a little bit of content sorted out. I mean, something different maybe, and then I'm on with the book club again, I suppose. So we'll be looking forward to it. And yeah, Dune Messiah is a book that's a lot more manageable, I think, than Dune. And I think it's I don't know, Frank's. I think Frank Herbert's a much better writer when he's given more time to write. If you see, his larger works are better than his shorter books, but this one would be an exception, I think. I think it's a very, very tight political thriller that sort of follows all the ideas that we've been looking at in Dune. And interesting enough, as I said, I've always, sadly, it doesn't continue with the terminology of the Imperium. Something we could maybe do actually as we go. And we've talked about things that we could do, is we could maybe build one up for Dune Messiah. I suppose it's what we've been doing with these words anyway. So, Appendix number 2, let me just get my copy of the book open, folks. No epigraph. And the subject is Fremen religion before the coming of Muad'Dib. We're told that the Fremen of Arrakis practiced a religion whose roots are in the Mammoth Sari. The roots in the Mammoth Sari are there for any scholar to see. So that's my bad handwriting. Let me just get there we go. I think this is a pretty interesting appendix for all sorts of reasons. Let's plug that down there. There we go. Certainly does have a look at religion, religious influences upon the Fremen, etc. It gives us a little bit of history of the Dune universe and some of its worlds. And it presents, I suppose, it presents some of that history to us through, I suppose, quotes from a couple of historians. We've got some quotations from a member of the CET, etc. So it's like a little bit of a history lesson, and we get to see we get to get a sense of the Megadeth in Dune as well in this chapter. There's an awful lot of people are dead prior to some of these events leading up to the Orange Catholic Bible. Then there's an awful lot of people died sort of kind of during it. So it gives us an idea of, I suppose, the violence of the Dune universe. And this chapter, I also would add gives it a bit of verisimilitude. So it fleshes out a lot of things, just in terms of I suppose the universe, the makeup of the Fremen, if you like. I wanted to point out to you guys that Haris Durrani's done some work on the second appendix of Dune. I think this. Let me just see if I bookmarked this somewhere. There we go, and I will grab you the link here. There we go, just before we continue. So I'm sure maybe some of you are familiar with his work. There we go, and it's on the Muslimness. Yeah, I went through. Okay, the Muslimness of Dune, a close reading of Appendix 2, the religion of Dune. That's up there on Tor.com. So there's a couple of wee things here within this that Haris has done that I'll be referring to. I suppose in terms of, I suppose that some of the things that Haris chats about we'll have a wee look at tonight as well. I think So the roots are in the Mammoth Sari, there for any scholar to see, and many have traced the extensive borrowings from other religions. The most common example is the hymn to water, which we're told is a direct copy of the Orange Catholic liturgical manual. Calling for rain clouds, Arrakis that had never seen, but we're told that there are more profound points of accord between the Kitab al-Ibar of the Fremen and the teachings of 1, the Bible, 2, Ilm, and 3, Fiqh. Excuse me, we've had a wee look at these before. But the Kitab al-Ibar, I suppose in Arabic, is a real book, isn't it? But for the Fremen, I don't know when we talked about this. It's way, way back. It would have been when we actually looked at the Kitab al-Ibar, I suppose. I think that's way back when I think Paul and Jessica are in the still tent, possibly. Let me just bear with me a wee second. So, of course, the Kitab al-Ibar is the combined survival handbook / religious manual developed by the Fremen on Arrakis. One of the books that's going to appear, I suppose, in this chapter or this appendix. Ilm, I think Ilm and Fiqh we've talked about as well in terms of, we can consider them, I suppose, theology and knowledge. Ilm is in the appendix as well. Theology, science of religious tradition, one of the half-legendary origins of the Zen Sunni wanderer's faith. And Fiqh, sorry if I'm pronouncing these correctly. Knowledge, religious law, one of the half-legendary origins of the Zen Sunni wanderer's religion. So there we go. Now, bear with me a second, folks. Yeah, we have looked at these before. I think that's the thing. Within Caleb Bahildon's webpage there, he just has a wee additional note on Fiqh, which says the term is purely an Islamic one and it originated from understanding. Let's see. And again, with Khaled's work there, Ilm, he has again the addition to what we read in the terminology of the pyramids. It's the Arabic word for science and knowledge. Excuse me. There we go. So I suppose we're going to get a lot of Islamic terms here. I think it's as is usual with the Fremen, I think, and we're going to get a few bits of a few other things. We're told it's being made up of certain things here. Profound points of accord between the Kitab al-Ibar of the Fremen and the teachings of the Bible, Ilm and Fiqh. It said, any comparison, we're told, of the religious beliefs dominant in the Imperium up to the time of Muad'Dib must start with the four major forces which shaped those beliefs. Of course, there are five major forces, but we'll have a wee chat about them. So I just did a wee kind of diagram, just for my own purposes. I put Fremen religion in the middle, and we have the roots up here. We have other religions, and then more profound is what I put, more profound influences here within the Fremen's own book that they've developed out of these things. Now, so those major forces, I've quickly rattled them down here, are the OC Bible and other literature produced by the CET, which we're going to look at shortly, the Bene Gesserit, the agnostic ruling class, excuse me, the ancient teachings, which include the Butlerian Jihad and space travel. Now, this was something I had meant to just check very quickly, bear with me. Sorry, bear with me just 1 wee second. My brain's away with it. There we go. That was a wee thing. Yes, that's something I've forgotten to get scribbled down. So we're going to talk about the 14 sages here. So the first thing here are the followers of the 14 sages whose book was the Orange Catholic Bible, the OC Bible. There we go. Let's plug that down there. And we're told that whose views are expressed in commentaries and other literature produced by the CET, which is the Commission of Ecumenical Translators. So we're going to get a history of that quite shortly. Pardon me. Now, just referring to Haris Durrani's work there, the 14 sages. He goes with one of the formations. 14 sages. 14 sages is likely a reference to the 14 infallibles in 12er Shia Islam, which is alluded in the appendix as one of the beliefs by which people reject the OCB, the aforementioned 12 saints. There we go. Excuse me, I forgot to note that wee bit down, but I was going to quote him there. So that's quite interesting. The 14 sages, I think that kind of thing also sort of rings sort of true of things like the 7 sages of Greece, this kind of thing. There's usually a number of them, isn't there? But that one sounds about right. And as I said, we'll find out that the 14 sages later, whenever we look at the various people involved with the CET, Torre Bamoko, if I'm pronouncing his name right, we'll find out that the 14 sages, as it was put there, are the people that don't recant, if you like, from the CET, from their creation, which causes all sorts of religious bother. Right. So we have, so that's the first of these things that affect this. There's Barry Homeowner saying, "Evening all, hope you're all well. Thank you very much, Barry. Yes, we're all fine. Thanks very well. I'm fine. I hope everybody else is fine. I shouldn't really speak for them, should I? But I hope yourselves well too. And thanks very much for joining us. That was very Irish of me, wasn't it?" So, what we're being told, these major forces. 4 major forces which shape the beliefs. So the first one is the followers of the 14 sages whose book, the Orange Catholic Bible, and whose views are expressed in commentaries and other literature produced by the CET, those translators. The Bene Gesserit's the next one, and we're told who privately deny that they are a religious order, but I've just put in the next that, not publicly, but who operated on almost an impenetrable screen of ritual mysticism. And I just thought, interestingly enough, for this appendix, it doesn't actually tell us what they are here, as much as we're going through here's the Bene Gesserit. They privately deny that they're a religious order, not publicly, as the way I put it. But what are they then? I suppose we know it's politics, isn't it? Who operated behind an almost impenetrable screen of ritual mysticism, whose training, whose symbolism, organization, and internal teaching methods were almost wholly religious. So for all intents and purposes, the Bene Gesserit are a religious order, but they privately deny that. Interesting. I wonder who to. The agnostic ruling class, which includes the guild. I think it's important to understand that we're talking about the people who rule the universe are generally agnostic, for whom religion was a kind of puppet show to amuse the populace and keep it docile, and who believed that all phenomena, even religious phenomena, could be reduced to mechanical explanations. So, and I've just put there, we note that very much a reminder of Samuel Butler and his mechanical kind of view, mechanistic view of mankind and the universe, you know. And then we have our fourth of these major forces which shape the beliefs, and it's called the so-called ancient teachings. So I'll just run through them, and then I've kind of created a wee index on these, and I'll have a wee chat about them. So what we've got is including those preserved by the Zen Sunni wanderers from the first, second, and third Islamic movements. So I'll just run through them, and then I'll come back to them. The Nava Christianity of Chusak, the Buddhist Islamic variants of the types dominant at Lankavilli and Sikkim, the blend books of the Mahayana, Lankavatara, the Zen Hekigan Shu of three Delta Pavonis, the Tara and Talmudic Zabur on Salusa Secundus, the pervasive Obeya ritual, the Moab Quran with its pure ilm and fiqh preserved among the Pundai rice farmers of Kaladan, the Hindu outcroppings found all throughout the universe and little pockets of insulated peons, and finally the Butlerian jihad. And of course, we're told just below this that there is, of course, a fifth force which shaped religious belief, but its effect is so universal and profound that it deserves to stand alone. This is, of course, space travel. In any discussion of religion, it deserves to be written thus. I've just done that. There we go. Space travel. Big letters with a huge exclamation mark, I think, is the point. Excuse me. Now, we'll come back to that in a wee second. I forgot to scribble all my wee notes in here as I wrote all that down, so I ended up having to put it at the back. There we go. Barry Homer said, has anyone seen the new Ryan Britt book, The Spice Must Flow? It looks quite interesting. I've just caught like the cover, etc. on Twitter there, Barry. Yes, indeed. I think there's 2 or 3 new sort of new Dune novels. I know Cara Kennedy had another one recently. Let me see. Well, no, I don't. I certainly haven't got around to getting it. Let's have a look. And yeah, I've just sort of caught it there the other day, but there's a couple on because it influences that kind of thing. And I think Cara Kennedy has produced a sort of a guide to Dune as well, I think, you know. But yes, The Spice Must Flow, folks. You'll check it out. I haven't seen the new. I'm not sure. Is it out yet? Actually, Barry, maybe it is. Hang on. There's an interview with him on Dune Newsnet. The Spice Must Flow. There we go. Was it on Amazon? 26th of September. Yeah, it's out. Yeah. £17.10. Geek culture expert Ryan Britt takes us behind the pages and scenes of the science fiction phenomenon Dune, charting the series' life from cult sci-fi novels to some of the most visionary movies of all time. Using original deep access reporting, extensive research, and insightful commentary, The Spice Must Flow brings the true popularity of Dune out of the light for the very first time, with original interviews with beloved actors and directors behind the films, including Timothy Chalamet, Kyle MacLachlan, Denis Villeneuve, Patrick Stewart, Rebecca Ferguson, Alec Newman, and many more. Spice Must Flow also examines the far-reaching influence of Dune on art, music, politics, and most notably, its status as the first ecological science fiction story specifically concerned with climate change. There we go. That's a bit of the blurb, folks. Check it out. I know we're all Dune fans. Yeah, I can't remember. I must do tend to just focus on the book here in these wee sort of book club things, but I must do a wee sort of general sci-fi episode discussing what's new and etc. Because I'm sure there's 2 or 3 new Dune books out there. I think there's all sorts, I think, as well, isn't there? I need to watch Jodorowsky's Dune again. Yeah. I've got it on the computer. I don't know. I'm kind of glad he didn't get to be. At the same time, I wouldn't have mind seeing it, but actually, no. It would have been amusing if he had made it, I suppose. Yeah. Would have been something to see, wouldn't it? But there you go, folks. Check it. Ryan Britt's The Spice Must Flow for all you Dune fans. Right. So what I've just kind of done is went through all of those things in the ancient teachings just to see what I could get quickly because it's an awful lot. And what I just thought I would, what really that I thought that I could do with that, or what is it that it can do with this information, is really just sort of annotate what kind of religions we're talking about and see how they stack up. So the ancient teachings, we have the first, second, and third Islam. That's clearly variants of Islam as it's developed over time. So we have Islam there. Nava Christianity of Chusak. So I've got Nava as a Hebrew and Arabic name for pretty, but Nava is also Sanskrit for new, fresh, young, or recent. So you can take that as pretty Christians or like a new type of Christianity. So we'll go with the dominant religion there as Christianity. We have the Buddha-Islamic variants dominant at Langkavil and Sekun. We'll find out a little bit about Langkavil in the next couple of appendixes, Appendix 4 actually, because that's where Glossu Ruban, the Count of Langkavil, was the eldest nephew of Vladimir Harkonnen. So this is to do with the Harkonnens. It's another one of their satellite worlds, etc. But in particularly, of course, these Buddha-Islamic is Buddhism and Islam. Excuse me. Now we've got what are called the blend books of Mahayana, Lankavatara. Is that my handwriting? Let me just check here. Lankavatara, yeah, that's okay. Now, what we have there is this is from Buddhism, Mahayana, in particular Mahayana Buddhism, and what we have is that the Lankavatara probably comes from the Lankavatara Sutra, which is a discourse on the descent into Lanka, is what it would mean, I suppose. That Lankavatara means the discourse of the descent into Lanka. Which recounts teachings between the Gautama Buddha and a bodhisattva called Mahamati, whose name means great wisdom, apparently, and is itself a Mahayana text. So we have Mahayana Buddhism there, really. The Zen Hege Ganshu is the Blue Cliff record. That's Piyen Lu. It would be a translation of it. And in Japanese, I think, is the Heki Ganroku, which is a collection of Chan Buddhist koans by the Chan master Yuan Wu Kequin. We're going all over the place tonight, aren't we? Whose dates are 1063 to 1135. Check that out. So this is a combination of both Zen and Chan Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. The next one we have is the Torah and the Talmudic Zabur. So the Torah is the Torah, so from Judaism, clearly. And again, just how has the name slightly changed throughout the years. The Talmudic Zabur is a reference to the Holy Book of David in Islam, which is generally considered to be the Book of Psalms, if I'm not mistaken. And in Arabic, Zabur means book, inscription, or writing, if my work is correct. So, goodness gracious, we're all over the place with these. The Obeah ritual, folks, is a term, I've looked it up, that it says it comes from the African diaspora and is a ritual sort of, I suppose, like a spell-casting, shamanistic type of, how would you put it? Pseudo-religion, maybe, I don't know. It's found in British colonies of the Caribbean, apparently. Something, I get the gist of it. I don't know how to put it. I don't know if I would call it a religion, but we'll roll with that word. I got the sense something like voodoo, shamanism, that particular thing. It's an interesting word, and I'd not heard it before. Now, the next one we have is the Muad Quran, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right because it's very similar to That's an Irish word as well. It'd be Moy in Irish, I think. So I'm just going to go with Muad. The Muad Quran, though I'm sure, apologies again for pronunciation. This is an Arabic name, and it means protected. So the protected Quran, I get the sense from that as much as we've heard about the first, second, third Islam, that the protected Quran is one of these ancient teachings. This set of teachings is the original Quran, the Quran that we would know. Hindu outcroppings, so that's Islam, of course. Hindu outcroppings, more Hinduism, and then we have the last term, pardon me, is the Butlerian jihad, which you can take as the term jihad being Islamic, if you like, but we could Butlerian, we could go with Luddite, English atheist type thing, all of those kind of things. Butlerian, I suppose. So that's just to run through those ancient teachings that were listed there, just under number 4. Before we come to the 5th force, I did just sort of a wee tally of them, if you like. There's sort of 4 to 5 different references to Islam out of the lot of them. 1 to Christianity, 1 to Judaism, 3 to Buddhism, 1 to Hinduism, 1 to sort of shamanism, sort of spirit magic type thing, and 1 to the Butlerian jihad, if you like. So certainly the dominant influence there is Islam, I would say. But there's so much more, and we always generally get that. I always get that the 2 main influences are Buddhism and Islam. And I very much get the sense of that. But it's certainly interesting to find out a few things there. The Blue Cliff record sounds right up my alley, if you know what I mean. That's the sort of thing I'd be into reading. There's BoJack Harkness. I seen about that just yesterday. So we were talking about Ryan Britt's book. I need to watch it. And there's Ryan the Scar saying, "Cheers, everyone." Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're keeping well. So that was. I had to quickly run and set a whole set of notes about that at the back of the book there, because I hadn't left enough space to kind of run through that. So these are the so-called ancient teachings, many of which are based on real things here, and a very interesting little mix of stuff, I think. Excuse me. Now, space travel is, of course, the 5th one. It has to be written in gigantic letters, like a big billboard type thing, you know. Capital letters with an exclamation mark, shouted across the universe. This is the 5th force which shaped religious belief, but its effect is so universal and profound that it deserves to stand alone. So here we go. This is, I suppose, and it gives us a lot of background to the Dune universe here. Mankind's movement through deep space placed unique stamp on religion during the 110 centuries that preceded the Butlerian jihad. 110 centuries is 11,000 years. So, to begin with, we're told, early space travel was widespread, but was largely unregulated. It was slow and uncertain, and before the guild monopoly was accomplished by a hodgepodge of methods. So, we're told that the first space experiences were poorly communicated and subject to extreme distortion, were wild inducement to mystical speculation. And you could get that, couldn't you? Sort of the first voyages into space, the first journeys into the great unknown, people being lost, never to return, maybe, you know, all sorts of ideas that science fiction could present would certainly be, you know, fertile ground for myth, if you like, and for mystical speculation. And we're told immediately space gave a different flavour and sense to the ideas of creation. That difference is seen even in the highest religious achievements of the period. All through religion, feeling of the sacred was touched by anarchy from the outer dark. Excuse me. As though Jupiter, I've put in brackets Zeus, in all his descendant forms, retreated into the maternal darkness to be superseded by a female eminence. Is that eminence or eminence? Hang on. Is that my bad handwriting? A female eminence. Sorry, I apologize. It is eminence, and that is my bad handwriting. Let me make that more of an I. I don't think that was right. Sorry, retreated into the. I'll just read that again. As though Jupiter and all his descendant forms retreated into the maternal darkness to be superseded by female eminence, filled with ambiguity and with a face of many terrors. The ancient formulae, an interesting use of that word, intertwined, tangled together as they were fitted to the needs of new conquests and new heraldic symbols. It was a time of struggle between beast demons on the one side and the old prayers and invocations on the other. There was never a clear decision. And I've just put next to that one. What? Just backing up on that. What they're talking about here, as though Jupiter himself had come down in all his descendant forms, all the different gods that make Zeus, Jupiter, etc., they're all kind of versions of each other in many ways, aren't they? Retreated into the maternal darkness to be superseded by a female eminence that was filled with ambiguity and with the face of many terrors. Kind of reminds me of the face of many terrors, Medusa, in a way, that kind of thing. This female aspect, which is terrifying to men. This idea of Medusa. Medusa's, I suppose, her face is a Gorgonaion, isn't it? It's my favorite of the Gorgonaions. Of course, she is a Gorgon, isn't she? But that you get the sense, the idea that there's a failure with religion to deal with space, and that well, this is what I get out of it. That it adds a different flavor. Frank puts it here: immediately space gave a different flavor and sense to the ideas of creation. So it's your kind of, your Genesis kind of story. We're going to see a little bit of that in a moment. But that there's more to creation than what our religious texts have let on, if you know what I mean. I was just listening to old Harry's game. I know we talked a wee bit about it the other night, but there's quite a funny bit in old Harry's game where it's the bit where Satan tempts Christ. But it's one of those things that, what do you offer and what else is there, if you know, that kind of thing. Just got me thinking about it. But basically, that what man's imagination in relation to creation has produced so far is lacking, isn't it? And I suppose it's kind of almost an inversion of it. A lot of older religions are kind of very much female dominated, in particular if you look at the Celtic religions in Europe. Up to a point, and then they all become very, very male orientated. I've always suspected, I have a strong suspicion that the myth of Medusa, which is quite a repugnant myth, it's a very interesting one to look at, is fundamentally about the supplantation of a female led cult, at the very least, by a male orientated religion coming in, and especially with her name meaning guardian. The idea of it, all of it makes quite a lot of sense. But the story of Medusa is a horrible one, and Medusa is a very tragic figure and is a victim. But I get that sense of this face filled with a ambiguity in the face of so many terrors, of many terrors. Medusa's face will turn men to stone. So the ancient, and I suppose the other thing I've asked here, by the way, is that if Jupiter retreats into the maternal darkness, as he's put here, to be superseded by a female eminence, and I put, well, whose? Is it Juno's? Is it Hera's? Who are we talking about? This kind of thing. But again, we're not told here. So we're told the ancient formula intertwined, tangled together as they were fitted to the needs of new conquests, new heraldic symbols. And it was a time of struggle between beast demons on the one side and the old prayers and invocations on the other. That would very much remind me on the Journey to the West, that kind of thing. There was never a clear decision on what we don't know. So we're told during this point, it was said that Genesis was reinterpreted, permitting God to say, increase and multiply and fill the universe and subdue it, and rule over all manner of strange beasts and living creatures in the infinite airs, on the infinite earths, and beneath them. So I get the sense that that's meant to be a revamped, go forth, increase and multiply kind of thing. And then we're told it was a time of sorceresses whose powers were real. This is the Bene Gesserit I've put here. The measure of them is seen in the fact that they never boasted how they grasped the firebrand. Sorry, I was just said that this is the Bene Gesserit here. I actually don't think they are. I'll recant that one there. Yeah, space with its extreme distortion, wild inducement to mystical speculations. Are they sorceresses at all? I suppose is what we must ask, knowing what we know of the Bene Gesserit. So the measure of them is seen in fact that they never boasted how they grasped the firebrand. And then we're told then came the Butlerian Jihad, 2 generations of chaos. So I've gone with 40 years for that. The god of machine logic was overthrown among the masses and a new concept was raised. Man may not be replaced. Those 2 generations of violence were a thalamic pause for all humankind. Men looked at their gods and their rituals and saw that both were filled with most terrible of all equations, fear over ambition. I've caught Frank doing this before. I'm sure we've caught him before at this. Maybe he does it again before the end of the chapter. Anybody knows their maths? Do we know what the problem is with what Frank just said there? Just for our bit of fun. Fear over ambition is not an equation. The most terrible of equations, fear over ambition. I don't understand that. It's an expression. In mathematics, that's an expression, fear divided by ambition. But it's not an equation unless it's equal to something. So I don't know what you think. Gods and their rituals, so that both were filled with most terrible of all equations. Were filled with. No, I can't see that anything is equal to. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, folks. That anything is equal to the fear and ambition. I'm just taking that as a little flaw in the writing there. But fear over ambition, I would say, is an expression. It's a fraction. It's all sorts of things, but it's not an equation. Dear oh dear. So this says, in these 11,000 years before the Butlerian Jihad, perhaps one could also say that technology, computers, also failed to help people deal with space travel, even as religion failed. Yeah, I don't know. We're kind of there at the minute with society, aren't we? We're starting to see an overflow of artificial intelligence coming into society. It's being presented, oddly enough, as tools to us, which made me think a lot lately. And will it help us deal with life? Even as religion failed. It's almost a parallel question, something, isn't it? Computers also failed to help people deal with space travel. Yeah, and I think what we're saying is it has a real psychological impact on the universe. It has. Particularly on, I would imagine, things like ancient teachings that would not stand up well to this new reality, if you like, But yeah, I don't think it would help them. I don't think it would help, certainly, people fail to help people deal with space travel, even as religion failed. I think it would help. Yeah, I think it causes problems to them more themselves, I think. I don't know. I think mankind is pretty adaptable in some ways, but very, very reluctant to go to change, I think. Well, so it's slow, largely unregulated, etc. All through religion, feeling of the sacred was touched by anarchy from the outer dark. And it has this, it's like a maternal darkness, I think. It's very interesting here. This idea of space being female, this primeval presence, if you like, primordial presence. And we're being talked about symbols here, by the way, new conquests and new heraldic symbols, which I think is going to be quite important. The wee symbol that I've put up there, so I use quite a lot of wee symbols in my notes, actually. Just some that we universally recognize, some that I make up for my own benefit, So sorceress is magic, this kind of thing. And then we have our Butlerian jihad, and of course, a new concept was raised. The god of machine logic was overthrown among the masses, and a new concept was raised: man may not be replaced. 2 generations of violence were a thalamic pause for all humankind. And the violence is a pause for all mankind is an interesting thing there. Men looked at their gods and their rituals and saw that both were filled with the most terrible of all equations, fear over ambition. And then we're told, here we go, the leaders of these religions, so hesitantly, the leaders of religions whose followers had spilled the blood of billions began to exchange views. So once again, I've got our little skulls. This is a heavy body count chapter, I think. There they are. I've just put down that's billions of victims of religion's followers. So after billions of people dead, they decide to have a chat about it. Began to exchange views. So we're told that this was a move that was encouraged by the Spacing Guild, which was beginning to build its monopoly over all interstellar travel, and by the Bene Gesserit, who were banding the sorceresses. So whatever the sorceresses are, I think we must assume that they're kind of like, I suppose the term we would use must be like wild reverend mothers. And that the Bene Gesserit is trying to bring them under control and educate them, refine them, I suppose. In the same way that the Guild are creating a monopoly over space travel, I think the Bene Gesserit are doing the similar thing. There's Lord Crunk saying hellos. Hi, Lord Crunk, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. So we're told that out of these first ecumenical meetings came 2 major developments. One is the realization that all religions had at least one common commandment: thou shalt not disfigure the soul. The commission of ecumenical translators was the other thing that came out of it. And we're told that the CET, we'll come back to that in a wee second. Sorry, just to say, I suppose ecumenical meetings, we're going to look at translators, etc. Translate from the Latin transfers means to carry across, really. Ecumenical is a Greek word from the Greek oikomenikos, which means the inhabited earth. That's a good word, isn't it? Interesting one. Which then goes on to become the late Latin, which becomes ecumenical, which refers to belonging to a universal church, if you like. So that's what ecumenical means, if we're not too sure, pervading to a universal idea of church. So, well, out of the first of these ecumenical meetings, let's all figure out what we've got in common. This kind of thing, encouraged, I suppose, by the Guild and the Bene Gesserit, they come up with this idea. The realization that all religions had at least one common commandment: thou shalt not disfigure the soul. And then the other thing that comes out of this is the commission of ecumenical translators. So we're told the CET convened on a neutral island of old Earth, spawning ground of the mother religions, and that they met in the common belief that there exists a divine essence in the universe. Okay. So it's a bit like meeting, I suppose, these guys that meet at Davos, this kind of thing. Wonder what would be considered a neutral island on old Earth. Every faith, we're told, with more than 100,000 followers was represented, and that they reached a surprisingly immediate agreement on their statement of their common goal. So there you go. That's pretty good. They get together. You get things, I suppose, like the within history, I suppose, all sorts of things when it comes to religious texts and stuff like that. Council of Nicaea and stuff like that. And this isn't really going to go the way they expect, is it? So the CET statement, is that we are here to remove a primary weapon from the hands of disputant religions. That weapon is the claim to possession of the one and only revelation. I've put down here what they all have in common is a revelation, therefore that needs an apocalypse. For something to be revealed, something must be hidden first. So the claim to the one and only true revelation. What Frank's saying here is that all religions have one thing in common. Pretty much they claim to be the one true religion, don't they? The one we're the right one. And I think they're all quite pleased with themselves here. There's Caravaggio saying, interesting at Cynthia, the ability to travel through space shook the religious foundation of mankind, but technology failed to provide a viable alternative. Yeah. In a funny way, not necessarily technology, but logic is what's going to create, I suppose, the CET. But the fact is that the technology, as Cynthia says there, Caravaggio, doesn't really do anything about it. It requires a human act, I suppose. But yeah, it is to do with, I suppose, to fix the kind of psychological element, isn't it? We're told that they were jubilant, they're all happy at the sign of profound accord. Sorry, that's not what they're told at all. I'll read that again. Jubilation were at this, sign of profound accord proved premature. There we go. That was me getting a bit mixed up with my wee symbols there. I got a wee happy space there. There we go. So they're patted themselves on the back, basically, over their achievement. And the point of it, I suppose, is that what are they there to do? To remove a primary weapon from disputing religions. Not all weapons, just a primary one, I suppose. The claim of the possession of the one and only revelation. So that you can't all go, my religion's better than yours, this kind of thing. I've got the one true thing. And we're told that for more than a standard year, that statement was the only announcement from the CET. And we start to get a sense of the sort of, I don't know, the spirit of it, if you like, within the population of the universe. Men, we're told, spoke bitterly of the delay. Troubadours composed witty, biting songs about the 121 old cranks, as the CET delegates came to be called. We're told that the name arose from a ribald joke which played on the CET initials and called the delegates cranks effing Turners. This, I suppose, I've put a wee comment here. This is what passes for pop culture in the Imperium, I suppose. Popular culture, people commenting on the political and religious aspects of their lives through song, in particular. One of the songs, we're told, Brown Repose, has undergone periodic revival and is popular today. So we have to assume that even after the time of Muad'Dib. The song that says consider these, let's have a wee look at it. I tend not to read out all of these. I think it's quite a funny wee absurd thing, this one. Okay, Frank's song time. Consider Lees, or Lays, is it possibly? Brown Repose, and the tragedy in all those cranks. All those cranks. So Liz through all your days. Time has told for my Lord Sandwich. I'm glad we're not teaching Frank Herbert's poetry and any of that kind of thing. I think that's quite funny anyway. Time is told for my Lord's Sandwich. So these writers really are delaying. They haven't got anything done. The public is bitter about it. They're not happy. And they're, I suppose, the general cranks, lippy guys, mad people. But they consider it, was it the Lays as a garland wreath in Hawaiian, Polynesian, and Philippine culture? Maybe, possibly was that what he was talking about there. My Lord Sandwich, John Montagu's the fourth Earl of Sandwich that the sandwich is supposedly named after. So just, I suppose, an elite maybe. But the general gist of it is that the public's not happy with these guys. We're told that occasional rumours leaked out of CET sessions. It was said that they were comparing texts, and irresponsibly, the texts were names. So they've been comparing religious books, and somebody happened to mention, it gets out that someone says, oh, like, for example, we're comparing the Christian Bible to the Quran, that kind of thing. The texts were named. Such rumours inevitably provoked ecumenism. There we go. Another go. Riots, and of course, inspired new witticisms. So it's I suppose that kind of biting comedy, if you like, satire from the population. So we're told of the commissioners that 2 years passed, then 3 years, and the commissioners, of their number, 9 of their original number died and have been replaced, and that they paused to observe the formal installation of the replacements hence delaying the thing more, and announced that they were labouring to produce one book weeding out all the pathological symptoms of the religious past. And how they put it is, and again, it all sounds very profound and lovely, doesn't it? We are producing an instrument of love to be played in all ways. Instrument's a machine, by the way, I would say, but to be played in all ways. So this statement, we're told, I quite like this. Many considered it odd that this statement provoked the worst outbreaks of violence against ecumenism. So what happens is the CET, the Commission for Ecumenical Translators, trying to take all these religions, get rid of what makes everybody fight over them, and produce one book that hopefully everyone can agree on, and that it will be, as they put it, the metaphor that they use is that we're producing an instrument of love to be played in all ways. So it's a thing of love for, to be used in all sorts of ways. And that this statement provokes outrageous violence. We're told that 20 of the delegates are recalled by their congregations. One committed suicide by stealing a spice frigate and driving it into the sun. Okay. And the death toll, here we have historians estimate the riots took 80 million lives. Is that? Hang on, have I written that down wrong? Is it 80 million or 80 billion? All right, 22. Oh, it's 80 million. I got it right. Oh, there we go. That's our biggest little skull so far, folks. 80 million people. Oh, well, we have the billions earlier, I suppose. So there's an extra 80 million for the death toll of this chapter. And we're told that it works out at 6,000 people for each word, then in the Landsraad League. Now, being a pedant, if we do our homework there, folks, where we have 80 million people, 6 million dead for each word in the Landsraad League, you can pop a calculator open and divide 80 million by 6,000. And that should tell you that there's approximately 13,333 worlds in the Landsraad League, which I get a sense is a lot more than in the Imperium of Sharam IV, possibly, So in the Landsraad League, we're told it works out 600 for each word then in the Landsraad League. Considering unrest at the time may not be an excessive estimate. In other words, it's probably a lot more people died. Although any pretense to real accuracy, we're told the figure may just be that pretense. So the idea is it's 80 million is a nice round figure, isn't it? That'll do. It's probably a lot more. And anyone who's pretending it's accurate is just pretending. So we can't take that figure as being valid, I suppose. Communications, we're told, between worlds was at one of its lowest ebbs. And we get the troubadours again. We've had a wee mention of them before, of course. And we've looked at them before way back. Probably when we were looking at Gurney Halleck for the first time. Gurney Halleck. That's quite a good one. So the troubadours are a particular type of, I suppose, minstrel kind of thing, if you like. There's all sorts of types of profession like that throughout history. So again, this is back to the pop culture of the Imperium, if you like, of the words of the Landsraad League. The troubadours were told quite naturally had a field day. A popular musical comedy of the period had one of the CET delegates sitting on a white sand beach beneath a palm tree singing, "For God, woman, and the splendour of love, we dally here sans fear or cares. Troubadour, troubadour, sing another melody. For God, woman, and the splendour of love." I just put riots and comedy. Riots and comedy are but symptoms of the times profoundly revealing. They betray the psychological tone, the deep uncertain ties, and the striving for something better, plus the fear that nothing would come of it all. So I think it's kind of interesting the way this is Herbert building up, I think, the verisimilitude of his universe. We've got the population kind of acting as a chorus here, in a kind of way. We've got these songs from troubadours, and for want of a better word, we can assume that this is the popular culture of this universe, because they don't seem to have, TV and stuff like that, programs and things like that. It is a very medieval kind of form of entertainment, isn't it? just catch up with your comments, folks. Ryan the Scar saying, Davos is tainted as... Yes, it is. Cynthia saying, Caravaggio, yes, I was thinking about our hopes for technology in today's world and the fact that the Dune universe had a long spacefaring age of using technology before overthrowing it in favor of human minds. I think certainly with things like ChatGPT and stuff like that, if I'm even remembering its name right, there are jobs, there are artistic jobs certainly that are at real risk from machines at the minute. It's a long time ago, myself and my wife actually looked at the list of imagine the AI and robots get here, whose jobs go first and what jobs are least likely to be, and both of our jobs are at the very bottom of the pile of least likely to be replaced by a machine, I suppose. Educator and social social worker. I think at the point we're going to need to have people social working these AIs soon, I think. But yeah, it's the idea of, I suppose, technology having benefits and hazards, these kind of things. But fundamentally, I suppose, whatever happens in the Butlerian Jihad, the sense is that it's people using 2 generations, 40 years, the god of machine logic was overthrown among the masses and a new concept was raised. Man may not be replaced. But we've always got the sense that it was men, within this, isn't with the quoting men with other men with machines overthrow, take over other people. Pardon me. So there we go. And a little bit of investigative mathematics tells us that Frank doesn't know what an equation is and that there are 13,333 words in the Landsrand League. So if we think about the death tolls in terms of that, it's not that much, if you like, for each individual planet. But all of this is a pretense at accuracy, etc. We don't know that it was 6,000 people on every planet. Probably some worlds had it easier, some worlds had it worse, So in the meantime, as I said, these troubadours are writing, bawdy songs and taking the piss out of these CET delegates. Some of whom have killed themselves, and some have we got them being lynched yet? 9 of the original. Oh, not yet quite. I think 9 of them have died so far. But yeah, riots in comedy are but symptoms of the times profoundly revealing. They betray the psychological tone, the deep uncertainties, the striving for something better, plus the fear that nothing would come of it at all. I couldn't agree more with that statement, and it's a very interesting way of putting it. But I've written down that this is the zeitgeist of the universe, if you like. A good example of this is the fall of the Athenian Empire. The body of literature that examines war, and I suppose even things like plays like Lysistrata, quite a gentle sort of sex comedy that is in fact very pacifistic, I think, and are the arts and culture of, for example, Athens at the time is highly reflective of the political situation, the artistic nature of the Athenians in particular, and how they get on with other people in the world. And as it's put here, they're what they're striving for and what they fear, if you like. So I think it's that Herbert's putting this in. If you look at, for example, the time is around the plague of Athens, and plays and things like that, and evidence that it comes around that era, if you like, it is interesting to look at. Well, it's a thing that happens, if you see what I mean. Rome would certainly, if this was Rome, there'd be graffiti all over the walls, wouldn't there? This kind of thing. Graffiti has a real place in society, I think. So the major dams, we're told, against this anarchy in these times are the Embryo Guild, the Bene Gesserit, and the Landsrat. We're told which continued its 2,000-year record of meeting in spite of the severest obstacles. And I've put that, well, that must be distance. And it says that the guild's part appears clear. So this is that these are 3 forces that kind of stopped all this chaos or helped to bring it to an end. the Guild, the Bene Gesserit, and the Landsraad, three dominant kind of groups within our Dune universe that we know well by now. So the Guild's part appears clear. They gave free transport for all CET and Landsraad business, because obviously the biggest obstacle there is distance. And I think this is kind of how they get their monopoly, isn't it? Ultimately, it's something for free, and then they can take it away. So the Bene Gesserit, then, we're told, their part appears more obscure. Certainly, this is the time in which they consolidated their hold upon the sorceresses. And we wonder how they did it. And is it done through drugs? Is it their hold is an interesting way of putting it. The suggestion that the sorceresses maybe didn't agree with what was being done, but it seems that this is about bringing them into the fold of the Bene Gesserit. Explored the subtle narcotics, developed Prana Bindu training, and conceived the Missionaria Protectiva. We're told the black arm of superstition. Not a very nice metaphor, is it? So superstition is that key word there, and I've put it nice big in red. But we're told it is also the period that saw the composing of the Litany Against Fear and the assembly of the Azkar book, that bibliographic marvel that preserves the great secrets of the most ancient of faiths. Now, that's an interesting thing. We're going to hear it mentioned a couple of times here within this appendix. So it kind of presents that the Bene Gesserit are consolidating their hold on the sorcerers, exploring drugs, developing training methods, conceiving a method of control through superstition and religion. So more the negative sides of the Bene Gesserit that are presented there, and we're given that, and I suppose in contrast to those, that these would be seen as more positive things: the composing of the Litany Against Fear, the assembly of the Azkar book, that bibliographic marvel that preserves the great secrets of the most ancient of faiths. Now, I think that's really interesting. Azkar in Arabic means remembrance or mention, and is also a group of prayers or phrases or devotionals repeated by Muslims to be closer to Allah. So in the context of Dune here, what it seems is, I think it's interesting to think of the Azkar book as something very similar to the way the Bene Gesserit go about preserving bloodlines. This is their means of preserving ancient books, ancient texts. And I think what I've written underneath this is this opposite to the intent of the CET, who are essentially taking like they're cutting and pasting, I suppose, is the word for it. The old term was who was it? He took a penknife to the Bible. Was it Martian or Montanus or something? I always remember that was the phrase. Well, that's something else. Bear with me a wee second. I just think Montanus. Montanus. Is that who I'm thinking of? Montanus and Martian. Yeah, Martian published the earliest record of a canon of New Testament books. I think it was him. He did a fair bit of. I might be wrong. It's one of the two of them, Montanus and Martian. Marcion of Sinope, Marcion. I think famously took a penknife to the Bible, that kind of thing. Decide what goes in, what goes out, this sort of thing. So yeah, a little statement of love gets an awful lot of people dead. And these three major groups kind of step in. We're getting a little bit about their makeup at the time. So it was just, I think that the Ascar book, I don't know if you agree with me, just in terms of what the CET are doing, is that they're taking all these religious books and they're taking what they want to keep and throwing out the rest, trying to create one work. I'd argue is a bit like kind of taking a penknife to all these things. And I'd argue that whenever they're done with this, people who have a problem with the CET are going to have a problem with it. And I suppose it's interesting that it must be, in a sense, part of the missionary protective of the Ascar book, the great secrets of the most ancients of faiths, if you like. So I just thought that was very much in line to being opposite of what the CET, certainly the goal would be in opposite of the CET, is to preserve all of these religions, all of these disputant religions and their unique texts that seem to cause bother. And a whole lot of people die here because it gets out which books, are being compared. So it's interesting that the Bene Gesserit are trying to preserve this information. Ingsley's comment is perhaps the only one possible, we're told. Those were times of deep paradox. And for almost 7 years, the CET laboured, and as their 7th anniversary approached, they prepared the human universe for a momentous announcement. On that 7th anniversary, they unveiled the Orange Catholic Bible. Hey, do. Caravaggio just saying there, space travel as a technological singularity. Yeah. Herbert, that pretty much, yeah. It's a religious singularity as well, isn't it? It's an event that so profoundly affects all of these things, but so profoundly affects religion. But it's a form of singularity. It's a good point. Herbert really was ahead of his time. Maybe it was an AI singularity that made space travel possible. Yeah. And of course, I suppose the whole point is that with the Guild trying to get away from the ideas that we won't need to use these machines, this kind of thing, I've been thinking a lot about singularity at the minute, Caravaggio. It's definitely on the books, isn't it? Something is Benjamin Franklin, I think. Oh, I've lost the context for that, Cynthia. Benjamin Franklin, I think. Oh, you'll have to. Sorry, I've lost you there. Can you fill in a wee bit more, Cynthia? Sorry, I might have lost the point of that. I just got Benjamin Franklin, I think, and I can't see if there was any, or maybe you're having a chat with someone else. I'm not sure. Here we have the Orange Catholic Bible, then, folks. As I said, we've had a fair wee chat about it. House of Orange Catholicism. It's very much meant to be a merging of the Protestant and Catholic faiths, if you like. And we have all of that, all of that stuff here in this country. So they've unveiled it, the Orange Catholic Bible, and here they go. Here's what they say. Here is a work with dignity and meaning. Here is a way to make humanity aware of itself as a total creation of God. Doesn't sound too bad, does it? The men of the CET were likened to archaeologists of ideas, inspired by God in the grandeur of rediscovery. It was said they brought to light the vitality of great ideas overlaid by the deposits of centuries, and that they had sharpened the moral imperatives that came out of a religious conscience. It's kind of saying that they've dug up old ideas and inspired by God in the grandeur of rediscovery, like a renaissance almost of religious ideas. They bring together the vitality of great ideas overlaid by the deposits of centuries, and it sharpened the moral imperatives that came out of a religious conscience. So it's not in that sense that they've taken these. Think of all of these old ideas as a blunt pencil, if you like, and that they've, rather than break it and throw it out, they've just taken that and sharpened it up a bit. I think is the idea that they're running with there, or that Frank's running with. But it sounds like a bit of a repackage of all of the old ideas, doesn't it? A kind of renaissance, and possibly nothing new, just refined. Sharpened the moral imperatives. With the Orange Catholic Bible, the CET presented the liturgical manual and the commentaries. Now, I thought that was two different books, but my understanding is I think it's one book. Liturgical Manual and the commentaries is one thing. In many respects, a more remarkable work, not only because of its brevity, it's short, less than half the size of the OC Bible, not that short, but also because of its candor and blend of self-pity and self-righteousness, which I've just put in ego there. And that's not a great way to describe a set of commentaries upon arguably what you might call the ultimate Bible, if you like. Of course, a Bible's a library, isn't it, folks? The beginning is an obvious appeal to the agnostic rulers, we're told. Which, if we go all the way back to, those things that we're talking about, the agnostic ruling class is what we're talking about. So it's an appeal to these people. And here's the appeal. Men, finding no answers to the Sunnah, the 10,000 religious questions from the Sharia, now apply their own reasoning. All men seek to be enlightened. Religion is both the most ancient and honorable way in which men have striven to make sense out of God's universe. I've put no next to that. Scientists seek the lawfulness of events. It is the task of religion to fit man into this lawfulness. I've also put no. I don't agree with either of those statements. Let's see. Men finding no answers to the Sunnah, the 10,000 religious questions from the Sharia, apply their own reasoning. So they look to these. I suppose Sharia is what religious laws, etc. Part of in Islam, laws, traditions, that kind of thing. And the Sunnah are the traditions and practices of the Islamic prophet Muhammad that constitutes a model for Muslims to follow. I've put a see Wikipedia for that. It's kind of interesting. Wikipedia is quite interesting for both of those. So all men seek to be enlightened. I would disagree with that's an absolute, but religion is but the most ancient, honorable way in which men have striven to make sense out of God's universe. Scientists see the lawfulness of events. It's the task of religion to fit man into this lawfulness. So it's to create a place for man in this mechanistic universe. And again, to me, it particularly echoes a lot of what Butler was thinking, I think. And if we know what happened to Butler, Butler was thought Darwin's work was great to start with. And then it really did reinforce the idea that the universe is mechanistic, that man is a machinate animal, as I believe the quote. And as much as he was a bit of a ranter and raver against religion and stuff, he had a religious background, and I think it was the kind of thing that ended up driving him back towards religion. He's a complicated guy, Samuel Butler. The other thing I just wanted to point out was that the Ingsley's comment, we have to assume, is he a historian or a commentator at the time? And he says that there are times of deep paradox. And a paradox is the word that ultimately, I think, if you ever look at my conclusion to all my Dune videos and the PhD videos, that's how we have to look at Frank. I think he's a very paradoxical writer, and he likes paradox. He's an interesting writer. But paradox is a big part of his book, I think, particularly of Dune. Sorry, a big part of his work. Sorry, is what I meant to say there. But it's a huge part of the Dune series. Times of deep paradox. So there we go. An appeal to the agnostic rulers. You don't shut. I think it's also like a kind of don't shut this down. Their conclusion, though the commentary set a harsh tone that is very likely foretold their fate. So the conclusion is this. Much that was called religion has carried an unconscious attitude of hostility toward life. That's a hell of a thing to say, isn't it? True religion must teach that life is filled with joys pleasing to the eye of God, that knowledge without action is empty. All men must see that the teaching of religion by rules and rote is largely a hoax. The proper teaching is recognized with ease. You can know it without fail because it awakens within you that sensation which tells you that it is something you've always known. I suppose it's an appeal against much that was much that was called religion, I suppose, in an attempt to set themselves in a different light, has had an unconscious attitude of hostility towards life. I would argue that a lot of the religions that we have, Christianity in Ireland is a death cult. Um, in no certain terms, it's or no uncertain terms. Sorry, absolutely, Christianity is a death cult to me, and still has practices within certain parts of the community that we've talked about. That are part of ancient Greece and ancient massive, the ancient world, to do with human sacrifice and things like that. And I've always considered Christianity to be very much, in this country with its own particular problems, to be on the side of death, if you see what I mean. And it has very little interest in your life, as long as what happens to you when you're dead is more important than when you're alive. It's quite an appalling idea, I think. But and it's likely to foretold their fate, we're told here. All men must see that the teaching of religion by rules and rote is largely a hoax, and that the proper teaching. So all men will not see this, I suppose, is the point. And again, I've just put here zeitgeist and printing. Calm. An odd sense of calm as the presses and Shigawara imprinters rolled and the OC Bible spread out throughout the worlds. Some interpret this as a sign from God, an omen of unity. So the futuristic printing presses are going, and that this book spreads, I suppose, like a meme, if you like a virus, if you want, but throughout the known world. But we're told an omen of unity. We're going to talk omens turn up here in a wee bit more. But even the CET delegates betrayed the fiction of that calm as they returned to their respective congregations. In other words, so as the book starts printing and people are waiting for it, there's a kind of universal calm. But even I think that says basically they're nervous about it. They go back to their respective congregations, their respective churches, etc. And I suppose the book comes out and give enough people time to read it, and here's what happens. 18 of them are lynched within 2 months. 53 of them recanted within the year. The Orange Catholic Bible was denounced as a work produced by the Hubris of Reason, who said its pages were filled with a seductive interest in logic. Revisions that catered to popular bigotry began appearing. So they go to all this trouble and get this book out, gets a bunch of them killed. It's an attempt to create a universal kind of religious text, if you like, that's usable by everybody in the Imperium. And the whole point of it is it's to stop people from slaughtering each other. And to deal with the massive uncertainty and religious uncertainty, the psychological fear that living in space, like this diaspora of mankind has caused, if you like. So denounced the reasons why it's denounced: hubris of reason, interest in logic, reason and logic. Seductive interest in logic, and that's most likely a nod to the Butlerian Jihad, a nod to the fears. And the hubris is a great concept for all of us who muck around in the classical world. It bounces all over the place and brings many a hero down. Hubris is that fatal flaw. It's acting like a god in some senses. When the gods will condemn you, will see you dead for it, pretty much. A fatal flaw, if you like, of reason and seductive interest in logic. I think that's very interesting. Oh, got you, Cynthia. Sorry, I'm just looking up. It's funny how I always backtracking sentences and stuff like that. Cynthia just saying Benjamin Franklin. I think that was me talking about a penknife to the Bible. Didn't Ben Franklin cut out passages in the Bible he didn't like? I did not know that. I was going way back to actually the bit that I was talking about, the Martionists and the Montanists, or early Christian church. And I can't remember one, but one of them is famous for taking a penknife to the Bible as how I was taught it. I must actually look at it again. It's probably not correct. excuse me, Miles Teggett said, to reject oneself, our instincts and desires is hostile to life. That was Nietzsche's criticism of Christianity and Buddhism being nihilistic. Ah, Buddhism's a funny. I've thought about Buddhism. I used to consider Buddhism, from my own point of view, I get that, the most selfish of all religions, which is kind of opposite to its, I suppose, the intent to get to the state of nirvana, isn't it? I don't know. It is paradoxical to me. It's an interesting religion. I think I don't know too much about the different aspects of it, but one of my favorite books of all time, Miles, is The Journey to the West, which is the story of Buddhism's retrieval from India to China, if you like. It's a mythical story, but it's brilliant. Can I value since personally I share Herbert's skepticism of thinking machines. For example, if we were to use the Turing test as a measure of consciousness, it would be easy to be fooled. I've had a big problem with the Turing test for a long time, and the simple fact is this: the Turing test is based on deceit. We use the Turing test as a measure of consciousness. It would be easy to be fooled. We had a problem way back at the start here. We had what could only be described as a sort of Nazi attack on the channel, and it led me to sort of investigate someone. It turned out to be a bot. Where my investigation took me, I sort of had to disprove the person before I went to find the machine, if you like, and I was fooled, I suppose, by it. And I was simply because of the fact that I would have a hard time thinking of an AI bot as a chat bot as a Nazi, or to come up with Nazi, spout Nazi material, but it's been educated, programmed that way, if you like. But the Turing test is based on deceit. As if can a machine fool a human being into thinking it's a human? And I noticed something today. I just not that I'm particularly into it, but I caught a thing with Jordan. I think it was Jordan Peterson talking about using Chat GBT or something, or I don't even know if that's what it's called. But saying that I think that he used it quite a lot, but found that it lied to him 1 in 5 times, 20% of the time, I believe he said. Journey to the West is the story of Sun Wukong. It is indeed. Well, brilliant book, by the way. One of the best books ever, I'd say. But it's funny enough, I'm going to make a few videos on top 10 books and stuff like that soon. But my top 10 books of all time is Journey to the West, regardless of genre. And I've read it all once. Looking forward to reading it again. If anybody, do not buy it. There was a Penguin Classics edition of it, and it's just an abridgment. It's that big. The whole thing's that big. So there's a four novel version of the book, Journey to the West, that you can get from the Beijing Press. Would be the publisher. It's the one I have. Comes in a little box and is illustrated. And for anybody who hasn't read, there's an awful lot of Sun Wukong stuff about on Netflix. And myself and my wife are watching some of it. There are tons of it about. And if anybody, I wonder, do I have that here? I have a link to another version on YouTube where you can learn Chinese along with it, which there's an old Chinese cartoon of it. But there are so many different versions of Sun Wukong in media at the minute, and he's such an enormously it's easy to see why he's so popular, I think. But there's a lot of really good films, and we watched the kids version recently, which was excellent. We watched the one with Donnie Yen not too long back, which was brilliant. There's the Monkey Magic TV show from the 70s, 80s. That's fantastic. There's the original Chinese cartoon. There's the books. They're all great. They're all slightly different, but there's a lot of material. If any of you aren't familiar with Sun Wukong and you're curious, arguably, I think the best hero ever within myth and literature. He's great. He's my favorite anyway. But yes, indeed, Sun Wukong. Gotta love him. Every time I think about the Monkey King, I smile. He makes me smile because he's irrepressible, as I'm sure you know. Well, 53 of them were granted. Reasons, seductive interest, and logics, revisions catered to popular bigotry began appearing. So people start mucking around with the book straight away. that cater to popular bigotry. We're told that these revisions leaned on accepted symbolisms. The cross, the crescent, the feather rattle, the 12 saints, the thin Buddha, apologies, and the like. The accepted symbols here, I just did a wee bit of a scribble, but we've got Christian, Muslim, sort of a shaman type rattle. 12 apostles, 12 saints could be the 12 apostles of Ireland as well. The thin Buddha is the Siddhartha Gautama Buddha from 600 BC. So it's a real little mishmash, and it leaned on accepted symbols, we're told. Now, if we back up a wee bit, if I can, just to see if I can find it. There was something we mentioned about symbols. A wee while back. Yes. When we're talking about the impact that space had, we were told back at the beginning, or just after we started talking about space travel, new conquests and new heraldic symbols, ancient form intertwined, tangled together as they were fitted to the needs of new conquests and new heraldic symbols. There we go. So this is they've taken away the symbology, if you like, of the old religions, and this has caused a bit of a problem. And people revising them have sort of leaned on these, as we're told, the symbolism of these ancient religions. And we're told that it soon became apparent that the ancient superstitions and beliefs had not been absorbed by the new ecumenism. We're told that Holloway, now this is probably another historian here, Holloway's label for the CET's 7-year effort was galactophasic determinism, and was snapped up by the eager billions who interpreted the initials GD, as in from galactophasic determinism, as goddamned. So yeah, they've turned quite badly on this book, haven't they? CET chairman Toro Bamoko, we're told, is an ulama of the Zen Sunnis and one of the 14 delegates who never recanted. This is the 14 sages that we were talking about earlier, 14 sages of popular history, and appeared to admit finally that the CET had erred. So I've just got there that ulama is from the Arabic word for scholar. And ulama here, we're told, is a body of Muslim scholars who are recognized by having specialist knowledge of Islamic sacred law and theology. The Arabic word is alima, is to know, and alima is know, and alim is learned, if I'm pronouncing them correctly. Alima is ALIMA, and alim is ALIM. That's apparently the source of that word. So Toro Bamoko, before we get into him, let's have a look at his speech. In Lingala, which is a Congolese language, Bamoko means unity or togetherness. First name Tore there, Tore, if I'm pronouncing it right, or Turi, is a French transcription of a West African surname, which is derived from Tuure, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which means elephant in the Soninke language of the Ghanan Empire. So Ture is also, by the way, of this one's quite interesting if we like our myths and stuff. And I'll spell this out for you. He's also Ture of the Zandi people. People. There you go. Check that one out if anybody's interested. It'd be a trickster figure quite similar to Anansi, wouldn't it? So as Ture, I'm going with that. Ture. Bamoko has got a very, very interesting and linguistically loaded name, and we've got another couple of languages to add there, which are quite interesting to our little melange of things like this within Dune. So he says, we shouldn't have tried to create new symbols. We should have realized that we weren't supposed to introduce uncertainties into accepted belief, that we weren't supposed to stir up curiosity about God. We are daily confronted by the terrifying instability of all things human, yet we permit our religions to grow more rigid and controlled, more conforming and oppressive. What is this shadow across the highway of divine command? It is a warning that institutions endure, that symbols endure with their meaning is lost, when their meaning is lost, and that there is no summa of all attainable knowledge. Summa are texts that sum up the knowledge in a particular field, if you like. Complete this kind of book. Bamoko's critics then say that the bitter double edge in this admission did not escape his critics. Sorry, that was me. He was forced into exile. His life depended on the guild's pledge of secrecy. He reportedly died on Tupile, honored and beloved. His last words were, "Religion must remain an outlet for people who say to themselves, I am not the kind of person I want to be. I must never sink into an assemblage of the self. It must never sink into an assemblage of the self-satisfied." So there we go. A little bit about Torre Bamoko. I think that's a lot of interesting stuff. Very interesting name. I went looking there. Let me just catch up with your comments, folks. We're going rightly here, aren't we? That's an interesting chapter, isn't it? So much to pick apart. Okay. Oh, yeah. The hero of heroes to me is Monkey Magic. Is Monkey the Sun Wukong? But I love Monkey Magic, the TV shows. I love it so much. Must get it on. I'm dying to watch. My wife's never seen it, I think, so we're going to get a copy of that and watch it. My wife has currently just done all 10 years of Stargate SG-1, the two movies. She's on year 3 of Stargate Atlantis. She's piling through all the Stargate, just everything in a row hasn't come up for air. It's quite funny. And she's going to go on to what's the other one? Stargate Universe, I think. But yeah, that's what she's piling through at the moment. Let's see. Monkey, great stuff, says Caravaggio. Absolutely. Brilliant stuff. My understanding of the Turing test is not really if machines can think or if it can fool a human. Rather, the question asked is are we as humans capable of understanding what intelligence is? I'd say that's a loftier ideal within it, Miles, but it is fun. It is. It's not really if they can do it. It's part of it. It's part of the test. Is can they? I suppose. But we're going back. I wonder has it changed since I've looked at it? It's been a long time since I've looked at the Turing test. Bojack Hartness says there's a good version with Jet Li as another Sun Wukong film or show. Yeah. On the other topic, I was reading the story. Oh, says Miles. On the other topic, I was reading the story of Sun Wukong. It struck me as a great analogy of ancient people about human evolution. It's fucking awesome. He was stronger than it looked, faster, smarter, able to make spells and use magic to manipulate the elements, even able to fly and move beyond its capabilities. We can use machines and technology to travel faster, to be stronger. Not only tech in the strict sense, but also intelligence. We're able to fly and modify nature. We can transform into other things, deceive, act. He could transform himself into several animals, but he had a hard time transforming into a human because it could not hide his tail properly. Because we are too much of the ape and mammal. That's right. Well, that's it. Miles, monkey. It's the different. Pigsy, monkey, and Sandy are different aspects of man, but the way I would always read it is that Sun Wukong represents man's intellect, his desire to know, his curiosity, and he's almost the curiosity killed the cat. But intellect, I suppose, is and the mystery of humanity, I think, is what the Monkey King represents. He's us, and I'm actually pretty sure that there's some sort of relationship with his name, Sun Wukong, to man, if you like. Though I'd have to look that up. But yeah, and of course the journey, how he transforms. I mean, it's a proper hero's journey, isn't it? But he's so different. And he's a havoc machine. But he is a wonderful character, and he does attain enlightenment in the end. And I suppose Pigsy and Sandy represent different aspects of mankind. But yeah, Sun Wukong is us. in all our in all our glory, I think, and in many of our faults. That's what's great about him. I think he's us. He's a hero for all of mankind. I think all of humanity, and everyone to kind of look at yourself a wee bit and go, yeah, I can see myself in that character. It's very easy to do. If you, as you sort of point out, man, if you just want to know more, if you want to improve yourself, be better, faster, stronger, anything, no more. Try on different things, become different things. That's the Monkey King. He's a great. We must sit one night and just do. We must do a wee bit of extra background reading, put something together on him. I don't know how familiar Western audiences are with him. I would hope that they'd be pretty familiar with him by this day and age, you know. But yeah, there would be the most epic TV series going, wouldn't it? If you could do the whole Journey to the West now, with good actors in the style of Monkey Magic, but and do it properly. You know, stick to the book. Don't muck around with it. That would be a thing to watch. I'll be checking in on it every week. You know, monthly TV. That'd be great. Or weekly TV. Wouldn't that be great? Just like the old. You know, you waited to see something once a week. So poor old Bamoko dies eventually on Two-Pile. And we get a wee bit of that he's in exile and his life is dependent on the guild's pledge of secrecy here. So that's a thing that's going to becomes. That's terrible of me. It's a thing that becomes a thing in the Dune universe, isn't it? That the guild hide people, and it seems that all this time ago, the planet Two-Pile, it seems to be the place where they keep secret, they hide people. But we're told, honored and beloved, and his last words were, "Religion must remain an outlet for people who say to themselves, I'm not the kind of person I want to be. It must never sink into an assemblage of the self-satisfied. For the people who are smug and use it as a weapon that I'm holier than thou, that kind of thing is what I make from that. I'm not the kind of person I want to be. I would read from that I want to improve myself." So it's ditch the dogma and take the message, isn't it? That kind of thing, I think. And it's not a bad way of putting it. Pleasant to think that Bamoko understood the prophecy in his words, institutions endure. They do. You know, you can see the Roman Empire today still in the Vatican, if you like. The British Empire is retreating. I think it's quite interesting that empires retreat to a nucleus if they survive. And the British Empire is still in a process of dying quite badly at the minute, but it's not yet dead. Again, I could argue seeing it retreat, just sort of a little nucleus around London. But all empires die. Is the first thing you should tell anyone that wants to build one. You're going to wreck us one day because they all collapse. They all have certain properties, and not every empire the world has ever known has suffered the same fate over time. So it's not a good idea to build one. 90 generations, institutions endure, we're told. So it's a pretty bad response to the book. 90 generations later, we're told the Orange Catholic Bible and the commentaries permeated the religious universe. So an awful lot of people had to die. We have billions plus 80 million plus of plus change in this book here over this religious situation that space travel causes, really. And it's interesting. When Paul Muad'Dib stood with his right hand on the rock shrine enclosing his father's skull. Tell you what, I've got a prop for this one tonight. Got me. I'll keep my hat on this. When Paul Muad'Dib stood with his right hand on the rock shrine enclosing his father's skull, the right hand of the blessed, not the left hand of the damned. He quoted word for word from Bamoko's legacy. Here we go. You who have defeated us, say to yourselves that Babylon is fallen and its works have been overturned. I say to you that man remains on trial, each man in his own dock, each man is a little war. There we go. Babylon is fallen is Revelations 18:2, isn't it? But otherwise, I don't think there's any particular nod to scripture here. Babylon is fallen is very one of those kind of a part of the revelations of apocalypse, isn't it? This is what Paul's quoting from, pardon me, as he's standing with his hand on his dad's skull base. And there's a timeline for that, I suppose, within the story. But he's quoting this Ture Bamoko. You who have defeated us, say to yourselves that Babylon has fallen, its works have been overturned. I say to you that man remains on trial, each man in his own dock. Each man is a little war. So this influence that I suppose, and all of this that we're looking at, by the way, from the beginning, what we're looking at is the before the coming of Muad'Dib, the Fremen of Arrakis practiced the religion. We're looking at all of the roots and influences on that, which in turn influenced Paul. And so that's a particularly important thing for Paul there, I suppose, with his father's skull at a shrine. Would if it's a shrine, I'd argue it's probably a religious moment. Each man is a little war. So the personal aspect of personal development, if you like, that religion, personal improvement that religion can offer. Each man is a little war. Each man in his own dock. Man remains on trial. All very male-centric again as well. Now, we've got this wee bit here. The Fremen said of Muad'Dib that he was like Abu Zide, whose, if I'm pronouncing that right, whose frigate defied the guild and rode one day there and back. There, used in this way and translates directly from the Fremen mythology as the land of the Ruh spirit, the Alam al-Mithal, where all limit actions are removed. Sorry, all limitations, that's my bad. Limit actions, that's my appalling handwriting. They're used in this way, translates directly from the Fremen mythology as the land of the Ruh spirit, the Alam al-Mithal, where all limitations are removed. So I've put about this. This is bilocation we're talking about. Now, in terms of Abu Zide, I put up that wee link to Haris Durrani's The Muslimness of Dune, and I got a little bit of information here from his work on this, just to give him credit. It's an interesting paper. I suggest, if you're in that much into Dune and like reading academic stuff, then check it out. So you'll find it on Tor.com. So Abu means father. Zide is a given name and surname in Arabic. Now, in relation to this, this is meant to be, I think, a reference to, this is again from Haris Durrani's work. Zaid bin Haritha, therefore, now, let me see. Have a wee look at the topic about what I've got is that therefore that Abu Zaid is the prophet Muhammad. It's I suppose a mythological overlay, I think. Abu being the father of Zide. Zide is the given name in Arabic. I think it's a reference to Zayd bin Haritha. So Abu, who is, I think, an adopted son or something like that of the Prophet. If again, don't take my word for this one. Check out. I've written here to check out Harris's work here. But basically, if Abu being father of Zide, then the idea is that Abu Zide is a reference to the Prophet Muhammad, if that makes sense. I hope I'm doing him a bit of justice there. Check out Haris Durrani's The Muslimness of Dune, and it's a close study of Appendix 2 on Tor.com, and he'll go into a bit more detail, I think. We've looked at a few of these terms here before, Amal, al-Mithral, etc. The Ruh, it's this imaginary realm. Interestingly, I put the term into Google Translate, and it said it translated from Arabic into English as excruciating pain. So I don't know if there's any Arabic speakers there that could confirm that for me, but I thought that was a bit strange. But it isn't. What we're looking for in this terms is Alam al-Mithra is an imaginary realm. Ruh spirit. Ruh is an Ottoman Turkish word from the Arabic ruh, which means soul or spirit. So the Fremen said of Muad'Dib that he was like Abu Zide, or Abu Zid, whose frigate defied the guild and rode one day there and back. So that's a comparison between Paul Atreides and Muhammad, if you like. How much? The only thing I wanted to know about this is that we've got there and back. His frigate defied the guild and rode one day there and back, and we don't really know what that means. But it says that they're used in this way translates directly from Fremen. to the land of spirits and back again. So it's quite interesting, and I'm wondering, is this, well, it doesn't seem to be, but we've heard of just a little bit back there of somebody stealing a frigate. Oh, it was one of the CET people, wasn't it? Bear with me a second. Just because one committed suicide by stealing a space frigate and driving it into the sun. That's one of the CET delegates, I suppose. So who Abu Zide is, we're not too sure, but he has a frigate and he defied the guild. Rode one day there and back. They're using the way it translates directly as the land of the Roospert, the Alam al-Mithral, the spirit realm, the imaginary realm. It's an interesting little comparison. So the simple fact is that this is a comparison where Muad'Dib is like Abu Zide, or Abu Zid, therefore like Muhammad himself. So the parallel between this, we're told in the Kwisatz Haderach, is readily seen. The Kwisatz Haderach of the Sisterhood sought through its breeding program. That the Sisterhood sought through its breeding program was interpreted as the shortening of the way, or the one who can be two places simultaneously. So again, that's bilocation. We had a wee natter about that before. But we're told both interpretations stem directly from the commentaries. So this parallels from the commentaries. It's not from the Orange Catholic Bible, I suppose. Or stems from it. Is that right? Parallel between this and the Kwisatz Haderach. Oh yes, I suppose the parallel between that and the Kwisatz is this thought that breeding program was interpreted as a shortening of the way, the one who can be two places simultaneously. This parallel between Muad'Dib and Abu Zide. Both interpretations stem directly from the commentaries, they're not from them. When and where do they stem from? So I was trying to get that right in my head. When law and religious duty are one, your selfdom encloses the universe. And of himself, Muad'Dib said, I am a net in the sea of time, free to sweep future and past. I am a moving membrane from whom no possibility can escape. Because we know that's not true, don't we? These thoughts are all one and the same, and they hearken to 22 Kalima in the Orange Catholic Bible, where it says, whether a thought is spoken or not, it is a real thing and has powers of reality. So that's very much, and we've mentioned 22 Kalima before, a reference to the 6 Kalimas. This is very much the thing that we get with the weirding modules in Dune, isn't it? And David Lynch's Dune, the idea of the thought, which is, I've always enjoyed that particular aspect of the film, you know. But there we go. A thought is spoken or not, it is a real thing and has powers of reality. And this is true. Thoughts have physical form, don't they? They're electrical and chemical. Our thoughts do exist in the tangible, you know, in the universe in a physical way. So when we get into Muad'Dib's own commentaries in the Pillars of the Universe, as interpreted, this is a good one, as interpreted by his holy men, the Qizara Tafwid, that we see his real debt to the CET and to Fremen Zen Sunni. So that's a very interesting thing, that we're talking about Muad'Dib's own commentaries in the Pillars of the Universe as interpreted by his holy men. So interpretation, you know, is, we always need somebody to interpret it for you. But it's kind of odd that particularly if you require interpretation when you're writing in language, if you see, the written word, that generally with interpretation it would only be required when it passes to other languages, but it's always what do we mean here? Interpretation, I think, of religious texts is synonymous with criticism in some way. So comparisons between the word of Muad'Dib and the Orange Catholic Bible and the CET commentaries is what we're being told there. And of course, well, when we get to Dune Messiah, we'll start to see the problems with the Quizarate, Tafid, etc. Excuse me. So Muad'Dib says, "Oh, sorry. Basically, at this point, what we're about to get here are a whole bunch of comparisons between the Word of Muad'Dib and the Orange Catholic Bible and the CET commentary. So each time we're going to get something by Muad'Dib, mostly, and then we'll kind of get a hint at where it comes from, if you like, you know. So the first one is that law and duty are one, so be it, but remember these limitations. Thus are you never fully conscious. Thus do you remain immersed in the command Tao. Thus are you always less than an individual." So not a very good endorsement about where law and duty are one from Muad'Dib. We're told that the Orange Catholic Bible has an identical wording in 61 Revelations. So I've put probably a reference to the New Testament there. Muad'Dib, religion often partakes of the myth of progress that shields us from the terrors of an uncertain future. Oh, I've totally forgot to highlight that bit. It stands out quite badly there in my book. Let me just make sure I get this, because we've got all of Muad'Dib's words in one. There we go. Sorry about that. So, religion often partakes of the myth of progress that shields us from the terrors of an uncertain future. This is a thing that Frank runs with quite a lot, actually, the idea that progress hides us from the terror of the future. And it links in with the Presbyterian fixation, doesn't it? The idea that we can use any kind of technology to fix or develop new technology to fix our problems. So we're told the CET commentaries here is identical wording, and the Azkar book traces this statement to the first century writer Nishu through a paraphrase, we're told. Sorry, that was my handwriting. So mention of the Azkar book again here. We have Neshu or Nishu, and again the suggestion is this is Nietzsche, I think. I've had a couple of people look at this as I wouldn't have got that from this myself. I don't know what you guys think. But again, it would make sense. It would suggest then that the first century within this era of space travel is the 20th century, wouldn't it? First century writer Nietzsche, possibly, is all I can get on that. Friedrich Nietzsche. Often partakes of the myth of progress that shields us from the terrors of uncertain future. It has a hint of Nietzsche about it, doesn't it? Terror and all of that in the future, and religion. Muad'Dib says, if a child, an untrained person, or an ignorant person, or an insane person incites trouble, it is the fault of the authority for not predicting and preventing that trouble. The Orange Catholic Bible, something similar, says any sin can be ascribed, at least in part, to a natural bad tendency that is an extenuating circumstance acceptable to God. Pardon me. Acceptable circumstance, extenuating circumstances acceptable to God is the fault of the authority for not predicting and preventing the trouble. That sounds quite funny to me. It's a very interesting way of putting it, isn't it? Let's see. Because we're in too much of any of them. Too many of these in it. Maya's just saying you could transform something. Oh, that's our Monkey King conversation. We had a hard time transforming into a human because it could not hide its tail properly. Because we are too much of an ape mammal. That hurts. Yes. Maya's saying, completely agree. I've been working on a theory of evolution, specifically human evolution, that relies heavily on the concept of ideas being a real and physical thing. They are a thing of its own, as easily proven by this. I think, therefore I am. Cognito ergo est. Isn't it that they always said, what is it? Who pointed out that it shouldn't be cognito ergo est? It should be cognito ergo est. I think, therefore I think I am. Is that it? So I'm not make too much of a hash of that. Sorry, Matt. Yes, they're a thing of its own, as easily proven by this. I think, therefore I am. Managed text is, if such is the case, how come ideas and thoughts come and go as they please sometimes? How is it that sometimes you can't get an idea out of your head? Yeah, memory storage. I think that's the problem there. It's the question of where do some things come from? They come right out of nowhere, don't they? I don't know. My memory is a very funny thing, Miles, to be honest with you. And on the whole, yeah, it's quite good. But the things that I remember aren't necessarily useful. But I have a ridiculous memory for conversations that I would have had even as a child. I particularly remember conversations. Not very good. I'm appalling at people's names. Absolutely appalling. But I'll have to meet you in person several times before I'll remember your name. Oh, but that's very interesting, Miss. Uh, oh, ideas, yeah. The Greeks will help you out there. Head back to the Greek philosophers. I think, Miles, you got plenty of that stuff. Descartes there, I think, therefore I am, etc. But yeah, information, isn't it really what it comes down to, Bobby? Or another example of become is as people sometimes can be possessed by an idea or a state of mind, let's say an addiction, for example. Yeah. I think generally in terms of how our brains work, we've got very little control. All sorts of things can affect them. I've been absolutely wackadoodle after 4 days of no sleep. Um, if you'd seen me, you're what is that thing? Would have been your question. What's wrong with that guy? I was just a level of reality, very different reality. I hate what's the term? Earworms or music. This particularly bugs me when a tune gets into my head. And being a musician, well, I can tend to do something about it, but often I can't. If I don't remember the name of the song, I have a hard time trying to figure out what it is. It's very annoying. I'm going to blow my nose very quickly here. Hang on 1 second, folks. I'll mute this. I've learned to do that over the years. There we go. Excuse me. But yeah, not just I suppose we've had a bit of shamanism and stuff here as well, but various religions being brought in. But there we've got a bit of Nietzsche, if that's the reference. We're told the Azkar book traces this to the ancient Semitic Tara, and that's the Torah, pretty much the Torah. From Judaism. So Muad'Dib's next comment is, reach forth thy hand and eat what God has provided thee, and when thou art replenished, praise the Lord. And we're told this one is from the Orange Catholic Bible, a paraphrase with identical meaning. And we're also told that the Azkar book traces this in slightly different form to First Islam. Now, we've got a wee note here from Haris Durrani's Muslimness of Dune that this is a reference to the Quran 2:172. So there we go. Certainly something I wouldn't have found there. Now, Muad'Dib, kindness is the beginning of cruelty. And we're told that from the Fremen Kitab al-Ibar, the weight of a kindly God is a fearful thing. Did God not give us the burning sun, al-Lat? Did God not give us the mothers of moisture, which is the Reverend Mothers? I'm assuming. Did God not give us the Shaitan, Iblis, Satan? From Shaitan, did we not get the hurtfulness of speed? Now, and we're told this is the source of the Fremen saying speed comes from Shaitan, which I think is interesting. So we're being given a kind of source for a phrase, if you like. Kindness is the beginning of cruelty. We've had a similar phrase about husbandry, the cruelty of the husbandman, this kind of thing. And it's an idea that's kind of being run with Paul here at this point. And ultimately cruelty to be kind, I suppose, isn't it? So just a little bit of stuff here. Al-Lat is a very interesting figure. You'll like this, guys. The burning sun. Did God not give us the burning sun? Al-Lat is a pre-Islamic goddess. We've talked about her before, I think, from the Arabian Peninsula. Now, just to run again, she's cognate with Elat, the goddess Asherah, which is in particular interest because she would be the consort of El, wouldn't she? Which is the Abrahamic god, as far as I'm concerned. And she's later associated with Athena and Minerva. Interesting, it's been portrayed as a sun deity here. Herodotus equates her, by the way, with Aphrodite. And in ancient Greek, we know her as Alilat. So there you go. If you want to check her out, you've got the spelling there. Hang on, and I'll plunk this down. So fascinating character. All that. But you'll find that Ali. I don't have the symbols on this. Alilat is what we call her in ancient Greece. There we go. There's another interesting mythological figure that's from pre-Islam. Excuse me. And is a figure that was worshipped all over the place in various forms and local flavor, if you know what I mean. That's really interesting here, but associated with the burning sun. That would kind of make you think more of kind of Mesopotamian, Sumerian kind of mythology, wouldn't it? Primordial beings and stuff. Like, Tiamat. Hang on, let me see. This kind of thing. I don't know if they're. Do we have a primordial? What have I got here? Heavens of Hell, ancient Mesopotamia. Do I have a family tree here? Oh, I just found a wee science fiction bookmark. No, bookmark Tiamat. Yeah, Tiamat's the dragon, of course, but she's what is it? She's some kind of the waters. Is it the primordial waters? Is it either fresh water or the primordial sea? I think I cannot remember. Bear with me a wee second. Oh. I'll just read this, just jumping off a wee bit. I suppose it's about Tiamat. It wasn't quite what I wanted to find, but that idea of the burning sun, it kind of made me think of these kind of pantheons. Honestly, I wouldn't have the material to go looking for it at the minute, but here we go. She was loose. The irresistible missiles spawned enormous serpents with cutting fangs, chock full of venom. Instead of blood, snarling dragons wearing the glory like gods. Whoever sees this thing receives the shock of death. For when they have heaved those bodies up, they never turn them back. She was made the worm, the dragon, the female monster, the great lion, the mad dog, the man scorpion, the howling storm, Kulili, Kusaraku. There is no pity in their weapons. They do not flinch from battle, for her law is binding, irrevocable. 11 such monsters she has made, but she took from among the god the clumsy labourer Kingu. Sorry, drifting away there. I was trying to find you a wee bit about Tiamat there from the Babylonian creation. I just couldn't remember what. Oh, here we go. Hang on. So that's it. Apsu and Tiamat. When there was no heaven, no earth, no height, no depth, no name. When Apsu was alone, the sweet water, the first begetter, and Tiamat, the bitter water, and that returned to the womb, her mumu, when there were no gods. There you go. I think it's the primordial sea, isn't it? Something like that she is. Lamu and Lahamu, the primordial sky. Oh, anyway, I was just wondering, was it something similar to a primordial sun deity? Because I wouldn't have necessarily associated her. Bear with me 1 wee second. Let's just look her up. There she is, goddess of war, peace, combat, prosperity. So Ali, that's what we call her in the Greek world. Idol of jealousy, etc. Yeah, uses title for the goddess Asherah or Atherat. The word is akin to Elat, which is the name of the wife of the Semitic deity El. Western Semitic goddess modeled on the Mesopotamian goddess Ereshkigal, was known as Alatum, and she was recognized in Carthage as Alatu. I love this kind of stuff where you find a religious figure, and you'll see her all over the place. There you go. Herodotus was thinking that she was Aphrodite, all in this. So check out Al-Lat on Wikipedia. You'll find a wealth of stuff. Etc., etc. And it's always interesting how deities change and morph and shift as time goes on and societies change and move and shift themselves, iconography. Yeah, very interesting. Just saying that the Lion of Alat statue that adorned her temple in Palmyra was damaged by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, in 2015, but has since been restored. It now stands in the National Museum of Damascus, but it may be returned to Palmyra in the future. There we go. I think we were talking about that's quite sad what happens with this kind of destruction of archaeological artifacts in parts of the world. It's an attempt at rewriting history, isn't it? Ba-da-bum. Let's see. Oh, I must back up a wee bit here, folks. I've missed a whole load of comments. Right, that'll give me a chance for fluids. Let's see. I think we were talking about music and stuff like that. I don't know, comments, people sometimes be possessed by an idea. Cynthia said, there we go. Caught up with you, folks. Right, Cynthia said, in the last chapter of Dune, Paul notes with sadness when a Fremen friend becomes a creature of the Lisan al-Gaib. Yes, he sees the impact of uniting law and duty, and the results brings deep loneliness. Miles saying, yes, information theory is taking importance recently, and information has been considered as the fifth category of reality. Almost everything's almost information, isn't it? Yeah. I haven't read too much into these kind of things. I'm not really much up on a lot of stuff these days. I'm feeling rather out of touch, Miles. We as living beings, says Miles, are bits of information. Our DNA is shared and passed since life exists, or should I say, nucleic acid-based life. If you consider the idea that everything in the universe acts as a collective, we as individuals can be thought of as a neuron. As humanity, we considered a neural network or a brain. Yeah, I've actually thought sometimes if you look at the universe, Miles, if you've ever seen a map of the World Wide Web, that kind of thing, that the idea of neural networks, this kind of thing. Maybe the universe is a brain. Maybe it's my brain. Maybe it's yours. Who knows? Cynthia's saying that linking Paul's loneliness to Muad'Dib's religious words, unified law and duty leads to reduced self-consciousness. Maybe to be fully conscious means not to be alone. It's like to be not fully, that idea of religion's the opiate of the masses, isn't it? I suppose. It's almost like he's trying to say that you're never fully conscious if you accept law and duty. And he's talking about this within the religious context. Duty's a funny thing. Duty's a thing about like honor. It can be used to beat people with. Someone says it's your duty to do something. I don't think there's any duty on this earth, really, that you should be beholden to, except for the ones that you behold to yourself. But duty and honor, these kind of words are... I associate them with, they're meant to be noble things, but I associate them with an awful lot of bad things. Pardon me. Let me see. Oh, yes. Linking Paul. Yeah, the sense of loneliness. And I think that's quite important, Cynthia, as well, with whatever happens between Paul and Casimir Fenring. That loneliness is kind of bridged, in a sense, by some sort of brotherhood with him, isn't it, I think? Carabajou says that, Cynthia, doesn't get much lonelier than being an intergalactic god king. Yes, indeed. Every god king needs a god queen, I think. That's but yes, indeed. Asherah is the consort of Mel. It's I say this it's something just my own thing, but I believe that all living things need company. It's as much as man cannot live by bread alone, this kind of thing. we all need company, even as misanthropes. Well, saying everything we do is based on a set of rules and suppositions required for social interaction and consideration. Everything we do as a species changes us at the same time we change things. Caravaggio is asking, is that the pagan goddess of the satanic verses fame? I wouldn't know. Caravaggio, are you talking about the satanic verses within that? Is that part of the Quran, or are we talking about the Salman Rushdie book? Tell you what, let's grab that and have a nosy. Oh, yeah, there she is. I just typed the satanic verses or words, so not the Salman Rushdie book, but the satanic verses are words of satanic suggestion which the Islamic prophet Muhammad is alleged to have mistaken for divine revelation. The words praise the three pagan Meccan goddesses, Al-Lat, that's her we're talking about, yes, Al-Uzza and Manat, and can be read in early prophetic biographies of Muhammad by Al-Waqidi Ibn Sad and the Tafsir of Al-Tabari, if I'm pronouncing those correctly. First use of the expression in English is attributed to Sir William Muir in 1858. Yes, indeed, one of the three pagan goddesses. If you want to check out the satanic verses on Wikipedia, I've just scrolled down a bit. There's the narrative, etc. is there, but you will find a rather good statue of the three goddesses. And let me see who's Alat's in the middle, isn't she? Yeah. Oh, here we go. The carved scene in relief 3 depicts three women above standing and roaring lion. In the middle, Alat, also Alat, Alatu, and Alat and Elat, as we were talking about. Wears a wonderful military attire and head cap similar to Athena. That's probably why, looking at the helmet, actually, that's probably, I can see why Herodotus would have thought that, that she was like Athena or Aphrodite. Well, not Aphrodite, but Athena. Who am I reading? No, Herodotus thought she was Aphrodite. I just got later that she's cognate with Athena and Minerva. Sorry, that's me mixing things up there. Her right arm holds a long spear. Yeah, Athena. While her left hand holds a shield. Medusa appears. Oh, right. Yeah, definitely Athena. When's this? This is from 1st to 3rd century CE. So if anybody's looking at this on the relief of the Arabian goddesses on the satanic verses page on Wikipedia, I've just had a wee look at. You can indeed see a Gorgonaion, which it'll be the aegis, won't it? In the center of her chest is Medusa's head. Very interesting. This is how we sort of figure things out about ancient statues and stuff like that. There's all the little details and so on. It says she's flanked. Medusa appears on her chest. So Medusa's head's mounted on the aegis, so that would be very similar to Athena. Alat stands on both feet. She's flanked by two smaller female figures. Both of them raise their right hand in salutation, while their left hands grasp and lift up an elegant garment. They also stand on their left foot, while their right foot is a little bit relaxed, unlike Alat. It is unknown whether these females represent worshippers of the goddesses Manat and Al-Uzza. It's from the 5th temple at Hatra, Nineveh, Governorate, Iraq, Parthian period, 1st to 3rd century Common Era. On display at the Iraq Museum in Baghdad, Iraq. Wow, that's an artifact and a half, isn't it? That photograph is by Osama Shakir Mohammed Amin, FRCP, Glasgow. His own work. Excellent photo. You can zoom right into that and check out the detail. That's incredible. Very good. Oh, we're getting all sorts. Yes, and so to answer your question, Caravaggio, is that the pagan goddess of satanic verses fame? Yes. Excuse me. Mel saying ideas and thoughts are a physical thing because they're basically coded into our genome by evolution. We require a set of core beliefs in order to work or operate in any given environment. There's Carlos Cresselia saying, damn, I'm late. What did I miss? Carlos, all sorts. We're all over the place tonight. It's a happy hodgepodge melange of all things religious, and we are all over the place, I suppose. Picking apart the religion of Dune. It's been really interesting so far. We just got kind of distracted a little bit. We've picked up a few references there, but we're just having a wee chat about Alat, who is Asherah. Alat, and I suppose we're talking about Herodotus considered her similar to Aphrodite. I was wondering why, actually, looking at that statue, but that's a statue from much, much later. Um, Hundreds and hundreds of years after Herodotus. So, welcome, Carlos. Miles saying religion also acts as a core belief in most people because we more or less require meaning and purpose to work function, or at least something inside us does. Excuse me. They are as real as they get. More traction, more people adapt or follow that idea and make it a reality. There's actually a theory called that proposes that the universe might be a neural network. Can't remember the exact name, but published by Dr. Vitaly Van Turen. Sounds cool. Carlos is saying there's a native belief that man is incomplete. Therefore, we always try to fill a hole the hole inside that we never can. Perhaps religion fulfills this lack in some purpose. There's an interesting idea, Carlos, I suppose, that some gods are not complete in a funny kind of way, that they become divided gods. Not necessarily being put back together. The idea that if I suppose the Abraxas idea, isn't it, that if you're God, I'm not really interested in if you're good or evil. It's just I'm bored. Entertain me, do something new, that kind of thing. That's the way I always got it. But yeah, the idea that if you're the hardest thing to sort of cognate, I suppose, with being a god is that the idea that you're omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, all of these things, and it equates to a hell of an existence, doesn't it? It's the worst thing you could imagine. I think sometimes I think that the idea of what we think of as deities can only come from the terrible imagination of mankind. But yeah, there is some deep. What's it all about, isn't it? What's going on? Something missing for sure. Excuse me, all this smoke. Miles says, "Mine will propose that the entire universe is a genetic network." Sorry, ha ha ha. I look forward to reading it, Miles. I really do, in detail. I think we've had a bit of a natter about this before, and I think I might have said something about just the way this text works. But I'm a person, I don't like reading bits and pieces. I like to read the whole thing. So if you ever get it done, Miles, I'd love to have a look at it. It sounds fascinating. Miles tags saying, that's Cynthia. Maybe it does when you consider that we're all part of the same experience. Ancient Indian religions mentioned by Schrödinger on its book What is Life mentions that the entire number of minds in the universe is one. Yeah, religious drugs from that time seem hard and spice, if you ask me. The big problem with spices is it's just lethal on withdrawal. I don't know. I think it would be hard pressed to get anybody to take it. Things can run out. Supplies. It's just that problem with it. I like to link Paul's loneliness to the fact that he had a completely different vision from every human being. That set him apart from everyone he ever knew or loved. And as Senate Carlos, what I can think of with that is a dopamine and reward. It's an evolutionary mechanism to keep us moving and look for more and better resources. If you were satiated with food and never, where's Miles gone? For sure, Doc. I'll send you a draft when or anything. I think you've lost your dot. I'll look for the ... Continuing, Miles. Simply send to Miles. I wonder if Paul's ability to see all possibilities links him to other minds and experiences. Not seeing all the possibilities, us mere mortals, gives us the illusion of aloneness. I still have my theory about the golden path. What Paul sees isn't necessarily what will come to pass. I think his prescience isn't perfect in any shape or form. But it's interesting what you're saying, Cynthia, because there's a link. Ali has been able to link up to his mind through sending almost like a message to the future. See all what links him to other minds and experiences, not seeing all the possibilities. It gives us the illusion of aloneness. I suppose, yeah, and the little people. I think we've done a good job in this book club of pointing out that the little people die by the billions, but they're not really considered. Maz saying for sure, Doc, I'll send you a draft one. Right, thank you, Maz. That would be cool. Maz saying Carson never got up for more food and resources. You'll die. That is one of the driving forces of our evolution. That need to search for more and made us what we are. I don't know. It's got to the point, Maz, where you don't have to get up. Really, everything can be sent to your door, can't it? Now, where do we get to? Speed comes from Shaitan. Yeah, so we just had a wee stop, have a wee look at Al-Lat. That's kind of I'm quite interested in these ancient world goddesses and things like this. I think they're always fascinating, and particularly Herodotus is quite good for kind of looking at how. I'm still quite surprised by Aphrodite. I would have definitely went with Athena, and well, as I said, we don't know. He's looking at, for example, that statues that look like that. There's obviously some hybridization between an Arabian deity, pre-Islamic Arabian deity, with the Greek deity there, and that's kind of your Roman interpretation. Greek interpretation's a thing too, but that's where you've got a hybridized god basically. Al-Lat looking and seeming to bear as many of the tributes of Athena as possible, but definitely looking like Athena, and wearing a Gorgonaion that's probably the Aegis, if you like. It's probably the Aegis itself rather than a Gorgonaion, if you see what I mean. So we have the burning sun, the mothers. So this is to do with Paul saying kindness is the beginning of cruelty. The weight of a kindly God is a fearful thing. Did God not give us the burning sun, Al-Lat? So I would argue that Al-Lat is a partner of God. If you want, did he not give us the mothers of moisture, Reverend Mothers? Did he not give us Shaitan, the devil, Iblis, Satan? From Shaitan, did we not get the hurtfulness of speed? So speed comes from Shaitan. More haste, less speed. Is that kind of thing, maybe? So we're told out of that. I suppose this is the mixing of religion with survival, etc. For every 100 calories of heat generated by exercise, or speed as it's put here, the body evaporates 6 ounces of perspiration. The Fremen word for perspiration is baka, or tears, and in one pronunciation translates the life essence that Shaitan squeezes from your soul. So baka, I've just put here, see terms and conditions on Caleb M. Behalden's work. Arabian verb baka is the past tense of yarki, as that looks like to cry. Yeah. Oh, well, that's my hand. Yabki, is it? But it looks a bit. Hang on, I'm going to look it up actually, because my handwriting's made a right mess of it. Oh, there's another name. I just typed in Baka. I didn't spell it. Is a member of a nomadic pygmy people inhabiting the rainforests of southeastern Cameroon and northern Gabon. The Baka. That's not what we were looking for. Bear with me a second. Oh, no, I don't think. There we go. The Arab verb baka, this is what I had found, with a double K, means to crowd like in a bazaar. As in a bazaar, B-A-Z-A-A-R. This is not to be confused with another unrelated Arabic verb baka, which is with a single K, which is the past tense of yabki. Yeah, my handwriting was okay. Which means to cry. So in this case, baka with the 2 Ks does mean the other one, the baka with the 1 K, to cry, I think. Perspiration is baka, or tears to cry, or tears. It makes perfect sense. And one pronunciation translates the life essence that Shaitan squeezes from your soul. The devil squeezes out of you, a very drop of water, if you like. And again, that equates losing moisture, I suppose, like we were talking before, with sin, doesn't it? With Shaitan, with the bad guy, with the adversary. There we go. I was just running with your comments, and I'll move on here. Just was saying with Carlos, but it can also I'll just go back a wee bit. Carlos gives the illusion of I've never got up for more food and resources. You die. That's one of the driving forces of our evolution that need to search for more and made us what we are. But it can also run out of juice pretty fast and lead to addiction. If we don't control it, we succumb to our impulses, and that is also dangerous. That's why Herbert was telling us that technology will doom us. We don't even have to get up, and that is fucking us up badly. What he did at the end of is force the universe into an interplanetary gym in order for humanity to reverse its bad habits. Miles says, Cynthia, can I argue the other way around? What if his connection to everything was what allowed him to tap into the future, understanding our repetitive nature, feelings, drives, and so on? I suppose the repetitive nature of mankind is a big thing within this, that nature of systems as well. Good points, folks. Oh, hang on. So we're told that Muad'Dib's arrival is called religiously timely by Conywell. This is another one of our... Oh, I missed him there. I'm going to get his name down again. Another one of these possible historians, Conywell. Stonybridge. Religiously timely. Okay. But timing had little to do with it, we're told. As Muad'Dib himself said, I am here. So... which is quite enigmatic, I suppose, isn't it? And very egotistical, I think. Muad'Dib's religious impact, and I put the environment here. We're told it's vital to an understanding of Muad'Dib's religious impact that you never lose sight of one fact. And this is it. The Fremen were a desert people whose entire ancestry was accustomed to hostile landscapes. Mysticism isn't difficult when you survive each second by surmounting open hostility. Sorry, nearly said hospitality there. Mysticism isn't difficult when you survive each second by surmounting open hostility. You're there, so. And again, that's I am here, so you're there, so. The words of Muad'Dib. And that's kind of, it's I think, what we were sort of saying about the little people. I am here and you're there, that kind of thing. Where is he? That we are not, if you like. If and I got that's that sense of the Alam al Mithal, that he's in the imaginal realm. He's in he's not quite with us, is he? I think sometimes, Just as we can predict more accurately the behavior of people we know, even better than them, and at the same time, we are so blind about ourselves in the same sense. Ha ha ha. Yes, Matt. Miles wants to know what kind of cigarettes do you smoke, Doc? Because here in Mexico, they never light off on their own, and they go out, so they will burn all the way down from start to finish. I don't smoke cigarettes, Miles, at all. I just smoke tobacco, rolling tobacco, and whatever happens to be in it at the time. In honor of Mexico, my clandestine answer to you tonight, Miles. In fact, I'll tell you what. I'll just type it. As an answer to your question. So yeah, no, I make one long, pop it in the ashtray, and grab the odd wee puff of it. Just to believe it or not, with the state of my throat, it tends to help it a wee bit. And yeah, helps me concentrate a wee bit. But I just sup on my lemonade and have a wee puff down there. But that's just one smoke that lasts me the whole show, Miles, by the way. So, and I need fluids, But that's in honor of Mexico and their little aliens, by the way. That's all a bit interesting, isn't it? At the minute, there's lots to talk about outside of Dune these days. But looking forward to a wee proper sci-fi chat at some point. Yes, indeed, Rollies. No, you couldn't afford to smoke cigarettes in the United Kingdom. I think it's the price of a packet of cigarettes is is beyond me. I couldn't afford to buy them. I can barely afford to buy tobacco. It's very, very pricey compared even to Europe or America. It's all government tax. And our Prime Minister is trying to get banned tobacco altogether. Cigarettes and alcohol, what keep your lower classes going. I think Richie Sunak might end up eating cake sometimes. Oh. So there we go. I am here, so, and you're there, so. As Paul's comments here, he is here, whether it's timely or not. Next stuff's about suffering and guilt, I suppose. We're told that with such a tradition, suffering is accepted. I've put pathos in brackets, but it's a bit more than that, I think. Perhaps as an unconscious punishment. Oh, that's an interesting thing. Suffering is accepted as an unconscious punishment within such a tradition. A way of that's a suggestion that the Fremen are slightly masochistic, isn't it? But it's accepted, and well to note that the Fremen ritual gives almost complete freedom from guilt feelings. So this is really to do with why the Fremen are such good killers, really, I suppose, that they don't feel too bad about it. And we're told that this isn't necessarily because of their law and religion were identical, making disobedience a sin. Which is very interesting. It is likely closer to the mark to say that they cleanse themselves of guilt easily because their everyday existence required brutal judgments, often deadly, which in a softer land would burden men with an unbearable guilt. So the point here, I suppose, is it's that we're trying to establish here, I suppose, is that they're not like this because of law and religion, where their law and religion go hand in hand because of the nature of their world, etc. They're like this because of they have to make life and death decisions on a daily basis. Necessary, brutal, deadly, life and death, this kind of thing. And in a softer land would burden men with unbearable guilt. It's the nature of their landscape and their environment that's so harsh that this nature of this life is required. And to be suffering guilt over it all the time, if every time you have to fight Harkonnens or this thing kind of thing, the Fremen wouldn't really be able to function as a people psychologically, would they? Excuse me. So the roots of Fremen emphasis on superstition is what we're going to look at here now. So we're told that this is likely one of the roots of Fremen emphasis on superstition. And then it says in brackets after that, disregarding the missionary protective administrations. And I've written, what does this mean? What's that about? Disregarding the missionary protective administrations. So I'm not too sure what that means, but I almost got the suggestion that the Fremen's religious makeup, as we've just been given an appendix really here on what it's made up of, what are the things that influence them prior to Muad'Dib coming here. The missionary protective isn't part of that, and we're told that their nature, that in terms of how they deal with suffering and guilt, that those roots aren't in law and religion, that are identical. And the suggestion here is that they're probably not in the missionary protective administrations as well, disregarding them. And up until this point, I've kind of thought that they've been ultimately primed in some way by the missionary protectiva for everything that happens to them. And in some ways, I suppose that one sentence maybe gives back a little bit of power and self-determinism to the Fremen. If you like, that they're maybe the suggestion, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but that one sentence, disregarding the missionary protectiva administrations, suggests that they don't quite buy the what the stories and myths, if you like, that the Reverend Mothers of the Bene Gesserit have to offer them, and that they've probably got a very, very harsh tradition of their own, because as they move from planet to planet. We'll question here some questions. What matter that whistling sands are an omen? Who cares? What matter that you must make the sign of the fist when you see the first moon? A man's flesh is his own, and his water belongs to the tribe. And the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. Um, I've written, let me see. It's an interesting point. It kind of, I suppose, the way we do look at the Fremen being super superstitious. Uh, the roots of Fremen emphasis on superstition is the harshness of their life, I think, is what that's trying to say. I think the idea is who gives a monkeys about the whistling sands? Is that an omen? Who cares? What matter that you make the sign of the fist when you see the first moon? These things don't really matter. A man's flesh is his own, and his water belongs to the tribe. That's what matters to the Fremen. And the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. I've written down that I disagree. It's both. Um, the mystery of life can be a problem to solve if you want to have a go at it. But it is also a reality to experience. Yeah. I've written down Danica 19. Has anybody seen any of that? That's doing these songs, I think, with quotes from Frank Herbert's Dune. But that's the one. I think she's a song where she's singing that quite heavily. I saw it there recently, up on YouTube or something like that, on Twitter. So there you go. Danica X1X. Oh, I wish I got a better lighter. Now, we're told omens help you remember this. The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. A man's flesh is his own, and water belongs to the tribe. And because you're here, because you have the religion, victory cannot evade you in the end. And in terms of the Fremen, if we think about what the CET has done, that it's created all of this ecumenical matter, to quote Father Ted, to kind of take a weapon away from all the disputing religions, that they're the one religion, they're the truth, etc., that you're the unique thing. And it pretty much works, but the Fremen don't agree with this, and the Fremen, I think we're told that they're denied the Hajj, the pilgrimage, again, part of their Muslim makeup, and that's why they start moving from planet to planet. Yeah, it seems that regardless of it's interesting if you want to think about just that statement there. And because you're here, let's just take that as the Fremen and Muad'Dib, because you have the religion, victory cannot evade you in the end. You have the religion. So that's opposite, really, in nature to everything that that the CET have been really trying to figure out, isn't it? That ultimately they've created this generalized religion, which is a product of reason, logic, and in order to stop people slaughtering each other and to give mankind a place in the universe, a sense of himself again. And it seems to have left out that the Fremen have evaded this, even though there's many aspects of what makes up the Orange Catholic Bible, and I suppose the religion of the period that Paul's raised with, and aspects of it with the Fremen. But ultimately, the Fremen are the one true faith, and they are the disputant religion. I think that's what that statement says here, and they will win. And because you are here, because you have the religion, victory cannot evade you in the end. You will win, And the next little bit of this, I think, the end of this appendix is always, I think, is great. The appendices are brilliant, I think. As the Bene Gesserit taught for centuries long before they ran afoul of the Fremen. That's a very good way of putting it, isn't it? Their plans, Paul, they've looked after Paul Atreides and made him one of their own. This has made their Bene Gesserit plans run a cropper, basically. They've run afoul of the Fremen. When religion and politics ride in the same cart, when the cart is driven by a holy man, or a baraka, nothing can stand in their path. So a baraka or a baraka in Arabic is a blessing, in Islam, a blessing power, if you like. And I've put Wikipedia for that for a little bit more. And we're finished with that appendix. And indeed, so it's an interesting way of putting all of this stuff together, to say that this is what the religion of the universe was like and how it impacted upon the Fremen, how it affected their makeup. But really, at the end of the day, it's not really that much. It's the really harsh environment that has made them think the way that they do, that affects their the way that they look at superstition and religion, omens and things like this. Reality to experience, and we have that necessity. A man's flesh is his own, but his water belongs to the tribe, that kind of thing. Omens help you remember this. But because you're here, because you have the religion, victory cannot evade you in the end. And that's in relation to Paul, I suppose, and the Fremen. How did this all happen? Because I'm here. You're there. And these guys are with me, and they're not with you. This kind of... and the Bene Gesserit have run afoul of the Fremen. The next appendix that we're going to look at is a report on the Bene Gesserit motives and purposes, from the disastrous Arrakis. What happens with Paul on Arrakis is a disaster for the Bene Gesserit, I think. Ultimately, then I just kind of did a sort of all be things. We've got a whole bunch just to conclude there. Herbert, I suppose, and fleshing out his universe, and at the end of the book here, is giving us a range of authors and historians, commentators, and also a range of books and texts to look at. Whether they're historians or not, I actually tend to think that they are. Ainsley, Holloway, and Conywell are the commentators, the historians, if you like, throughout this chapter. We also have Ture Bomoko, who's from the CET, and he has and we have a mention of Nietzsche, I suppose. Books that are brought into this chapter, we have a whole pile of them within the ancient teachings, but the main ones within the text here, outside of the list of ancient teachings, if you like, are the Orange Catholic Bible, the Liturgical Manual, and the commentaries, which are both published by the CET, the Azkar book, the Kitab al-Ibar, and we've also mentioned of the Torah there as well, the Quran. And coming up, I suppose, in a couple of chapters, we're going to have the Almanac on Ashraf. But there we go, folks. We're at the end of quite a dense wee quite a dense wee appendix on the religion of Dune. And I think Herbert in many ways is fleshing out his universe. He's getting us to think a little about religion here, and particularly with Messianism and stuff like that, and the sheer number of different sort of religions and hybrid religions that he's pieced together here. And I said, if you're a bit of a pedant and you like to go check, wonder where that comes from, wonder where this idea is coming from. We've been all over the place today, haven't we? Very much heading into the ancient world. I love it when we can go as far, when we hit Sumerian and Mesopotamian stuff, because we're punching back quite far, aren't we, when we look at this kind of stuff. It's fascinating. But we've had all sorts of things, and it's a very interesting. As somebody pointed out, it's kind of like a singularity, a singular event that ultimately changes everything within human society. The Butlerian, I suppose within the Dune universe, there is an artificial intelligence singularity that happens at some point, and of course we have the Butlerian jihad, which goes on over 40 years. So there's a lot about the nature of the universe, I suppose, as well, being female, and the idea of moving away from male-dominated religions and this kind of thing. There's generally an idea that a lot of the religions in the earth used to be female-orientated, and that probably after the big flood that things changed, and probably because if the gods killed everybody in a big flood, who do we blame? We tend to blame the priesthood, that kind of thing. I think the story of Medusa is a very good example of a gender shift in cults and religious practices, for example. But if you look at Celtic deities going back, like what would you call is it or Venus? Can't remember the name of the place. Oh, there's quite a few here. Is it the Venus de Quinipoli? Let's see. Not quite the one I was thinking of. No. There's a hot dwarf or something. Wood eaten. There's a Venus. Oh, Venus statue. There we go. My old brain. The Venus of Willendorf. That's who I was thinking of. There she is. Gorgeous girl. Have a look at the Venus of Willendorf if you like. Willendorf, Willendorf. Venus figurine estimated to be made around 25,000 to 30,000 years ago. Associated with the Upper Paleolithic Gravettian industry. Fascinating stuff. These kind of female fertility deities, I suppose. Yeah, there's loads of them. This kind of thing, but yeah, how religions change and morph and shape over long periods of time is very interesting. And the only way you can see it is to look at them over long periods of time, if you like, But most of our religions have morphed out of, older ones, take on their shapes and forms, their symbols, if you like, as very much as Frank says. It's a fascinating wee chapter, isn't it? And I said, if you're inclined to look at things like this, there's having looked through it, there's certainly from my point of view, is there anything in here that I'm looking at that I would want to read? And the Blue Cliff record I'd read that. That's kind of how I would operate. That's things like that tend to be what I kind of read. The stuff on the Lankavatara Sutra sounds interesting. Love to read more on these subjects, But if I that was quite a hard thing to track down actually. The Zen Hekigan Chinese and Japanese, but Hekigan Roku in Japanese. I think this collection of Chan Buddhist koans by the Chan master Yuanwu Kikwin from the 11th, 12th century. That sounds fascinating to me. Again, I would love. I like reading books from the old ancient world. And I often, in fact, he's kind of popping in around where I get bored, isn't it? I tend to tell people I get a bit fed up with the human race around 1066, that kind of thing, But it's just an incredible amount of stuff in this chapter, and to research this, and I think in a pre-internet age is pretty impressive by Frank. It's a great wee chapter. I think it helps us paint out this. It helps us imagine a long kind of period of history, and does really sort of bring together the influences of the religions of today. Excuse me, the religions of Frank's time, and has an interesting. It's if you think about what he's done, mixing up words and stuff, and the ideas that words would change a bit over time, and all these things would evolve in themselves. I think it's an interesting little chapter, this Appendix 2, and it does definitely show. I think the dominant influences on the Fremen are definitely Islam, but there's a fair chunk of, as we're even told at the start, a fair chunk of all sorts of things, and all these things are influences on the Fremen, but ultimately their environment, I think, is a primary thing there, and how it packages and takes their ideas, I suppose. So I like that idea there at the end with them, about, and again, I don't know if you. But it's an interesting that they're disregarding the missionary protective administrations. What matter whistling sounds or no? It's a little bit. A man's flesh is his own, and his water belongs to the tribe. And that's very practical. And the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. Also pragmatic, but also quite philosophical, I think, at the same time. And I don't know if anybody's seen Danica 19's pop video, or I'm not sure what it's called actually, but I saw it. She was advertising it on Twitter there, and I checked it out. It's quite, very Dune-y. For Dune fans, check it out. But the only one that I saw was her singing "The Mystery of Life Isn't a Problem to Solve, but a Reality to Experience." It sounded quite upbeat to me. I thought I happily take discussion on it. But there we go, folks. We have another one done. Next time, it's going to be Appendix 3 and 4 and the terminology of the Imperium together. I'm not going to take notes on the terminology of the Imperium. I don't think there's much point. We've covered a lot. within the book. But I think whenever we get to that, I think we can just kind of have an open chat about it at the very end. And if anybody's got any particular interest in any particular terms, I'm sure that we've covered most of the things within the terminology at some point, well, as we've been reading. But occasionally they are the odd wee thing that we might have missed, which also helps flesh out the story a wee bit. And as I do like to point out, this whole book's a novel. So you're not finished this novel until Zen Sunni, but that's you finished Dune, I think. And as I said, it does it. We're continuing to have the story kind of fleshed out for us. The story's always told in a back and forward in kind of temporal terms, if you know what I mean. And ultimately, what's being presented to us with the Book of Dune is some kind of thing from the future that's a record of this. And so I just thought it was interesting to have a little collection of historians here. I think Ainsley Holloway and Conywell, and a little list of books that flesh out the Dune universe. We've had some kind of pop culture as well, with the troubadours and their bawdy songs about the CET. And I thought it was a bit weak, actually. But one of the things that I find a bit not too realistic about this far future universe is the lack of things like television and even local radio, this kind of thing for information. It's all there seems to be very little kind of stuff to occupy the masses, except for the old things like bread and circuses, But there we go. Oh, handmade, says Miles. Yes, indeed. So they said, Miles, certainly saying, Paul's abilities in another light brings good insight. The most interesting ideas come at the boundaries, the edges where differences collide. And Miles thinks that sounds like the Nordics to me. They're happy to die in battle, even in death, because that was actually better. They win every way. Yeah, the Spartans are like that. The Spartans of a particular period. A glorious death in battle is the dream of every Spartan soldier, and to look good and to they'd have their hair combed and brushed and make themselves look real good. That's so their bodies look good when they're dead. Spartans are quite and have their Lacedaemonian quips, if you know the word Lacedaemonian. Laconic, sorry, I should have I've gone too far there. Laconic quips. But the word laconic comes from Lacedaemonia. So Lacedaemon is the first king of Sparta, and the country's named after him, and Sparta was his wife, and the city is named after her. There you go. But yeah, there's a number of Miles. I don't know if you've ever read the Town. There's plenty of that, and there's a fair amount of. I suppose this is the Spartans again. If you ever read the Anabasis, the march up country, the 10,000. That's a kind of half and half almost of Spartans and Athenians, and there are people who are quite keen to be the first in to die well. It is a part of certain cultures. Frank Herbert was brilliant on its understanding of evolution and how it applied to everything, not just biological entities. I agree. I'm still the person that seems to argue that the main theme of Dune is evolution, of the whole series is evolution. I've read a few articles recently just about Dune and what it's people in relation to the film and other media that's about, and people talking about it, and none of them mentioned that it was about evolution. And I think I've made the case for it, within my videos, but it's certainly the dominant theme. That runs all the way through, and everything that we see here, everything's evolving in Dune. And I think when we get to look at the next chapter, the criticisms of the Bene Gesserit is what we were talking about, that they don't realize that they're part of it as well. That everything is, Miles is sort of saying, is connected, and everything is connected. But there we go, folks. It's just coming up to 12. Maz saying, cheers, Doc. Thanks for the chat, and see you later. Cheers to everyone. Thank you, Maz. I'm just going to wrap things up tonight now, folks, and say that we'll be going live on Thursday at the same time, 9 o'clock next week, for our last ever Dune Book Club will have finished. So I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think it'll take too long for us to get through Appendices 3 and 4. And we can have a bit of fun with the terminology, and we could even maybe consider it a bit of a rap party. And, any questions about the whole thing. And again, we're so close, so I'm not going to jinx it, but we've got one more to go. And I hope you can all join me same time next week. And as I said, we'll try and have maybe a wee bit of fun with it, but it will be the last one, and we will take it all the way to the very last page of this book, which I'm looking forward to getting there. It's been it's been epic, hasn't it? So they said, thanks, Doc. Miles texted, cheers, Doc. Thanks for the chat. See you later. Cheers to everyone. Kind of, I just saying good night, everyone. Thanks, Doc. Thank you all very much, as always, folks. And I'll say good night. Take it easy. Look after yourselves, no matter where you are. And hopefully we'll see you on time next week at 9 o'clock. Fingers crossed. All the very best. And thank you very much and good night. Bye-bye.